Okay, now we're live. I have a I have a first time guest on my channel, Blue Georgism. He's the second Georges have I have on my channel so far. First being Geo-Libertarian George, and other people might join, other or not. So how have you been, dude?
I've been all right. Lots of tests, just got through midterms, but over the hill. So
Yeah. So how's the new puppy?
adorable and terribly behaved. It's been storming out here, and she has not wanted to go outside to go to the bathroom. So that's been just wonderful to deal with. But you know,
Okay, so yeah, just okay, okay,
good start to the stream. Good start.
yeah. Yeah. So what got you like interested into like center into in libertarian center politics? You're the Georges, right? Like, what got you like invested in this single land value tax?
Well, I've kind of always had a more libertarian streak on that part of the axis, but Georgism specifically was probably about 2 years ago. I started picking up on it. It's whenever I first heard about Henry George, which kind of has to happen before you can join the ideology. But uh, the general idea of geoism was me swinging around from more socialist to right libertarian politics, not knowing what I was really believing in. And then once the geoist ideas of well, what your labor creates, you can keep. What is land and natural is up for rent of society. Kind of stuck with me. And then it turns out we have had massive amounts of literature on this exact topic, and George's made the most sense, so stuck with that.
Let's bring well, let's end protectionism and bring in free trade, and also let's end landlordism through the via land tax.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's see. Okay, the reason why I invite you here on my channel is to talk about Allende's Chile,
Is that how you say
and
it, Linde? I've always
what,
wondered about that. Is
what do you mean?
that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm not an expert on this. I always say Allende, but
that
all right.
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We're
Okay,
American, so we want.
Allen Allende's Chile, and we once had like a rather I don't know thorough conversation U.S. involvement over U.S. involvement or CIA activities in Chile, and you're going with actually more specifically, we were more talking about the main disagreement was over Kissinger and his conduct as a statesman, and we disagreed over that, and Chile was sort of just brought into the discussion naturally, and you seem to think that the CIA was the catalyst of of the coup d'état in Chile, the overthrow of the Allende, and also you seem to think that the CIA also assassinated that general.
Renee
Uh,
Schneider.
yeah, Rene
Um,
Schneider. That seems to be the
all right.
main issue there. So what's your overall assessment of Allende's Chile and Allende himself?
Well, on the first point of the CIA helping with the coup, I'm not sure that's really up for debate at this point. It's been pretty well established that they were involved in various, I mean, throughout from 1970 to 1973 in various ways, going after the regime and ultimately helping with the coup and Pinochet's rise to power. But as for Rene Schneider, I'm not saying the CIA themselves assassinated him. Rather, they funded the group that would assassinate him, and there's massive controversy, which I don't think we've ever had a clear answer with, but I kind of laid a more suspicion of Kissinger knowing it was going to happen and not stopping it.
Okay.
For Allende, let's go with that. For Allende himself, I I kind of exist in the role between more on the left and more on the right, being a Georgist. And so whenever I criticize Kissinger, whenever I criticize American policy towards Chile, I'm not a big fan of Allende either. And that gets me into trouble with some people whom I would otherwise be friends with, talking about foreign policy in this one context. But his policies were more directly socialist. He was very left wing. That was what, as his coalition was the FRAP coalition, the FRAP, and they rose to power as pretty socialist. And one of the main things they did was they looked for a nationalization of copper industries. And this had been going on for decades. The former president Montalva, the CIA had even funded, and he was still nationalizing stuff. The main difference was Allende was ignoring congressional norms. He was kind of abusing the power of his office, and he wasn't giving any restitutions to the companies who had invested massive amounts of infrastructure within Chile before nationalizing the different industries. And so because of this, he's not my favorite president. There were many within Chile who wanted him gone, some through formal legal processes, some through a coup. And so it's not a great loss that he was removed from power, and ultimately he did kill himself. But my main problem is that immediately afterwards we got Pinochet in, and human rights abuses only escalated from there.
Okay. I once heard a theory that Castro actually planned to have him assassinated, or that his bodyguards that was hired from, or his Cuban bodyguards killed him because Castro ordered them to. There's still controversy over the Allende death, but I generally agree that he committed suicide. But overall, my take on Chile my main argument is that the CIA did not back the coup d'etat, Pinochet's military coup against Chile, and also the extent of CIA activity was very minimal. As far as we know, there was 2 tracks, and they were effectively terminated by the 40 Committee, or Henry Kissinger, if you will, if you want to name a person. It was just more the product of Allende. The reason why the coup d'etat happened, I'm willing to argue, is that it was a product of Allende's inflexibility and incompetence as a statesman, as a national leader, because he due to his economic policies resulted in hyperinflation, evaporating the savings of the Chilean middle class. And also, the guy was generally authoritarian. As you said, he did violate congressional norms, try to subvert the constitution, the Chilean constitution, and resulting this government gridlock. More on U.S. policy towards Chile was that they did not want another Castroesque regime in South America. They understand that it was ultimately going to be stabilizing, but to the extent of involvement to actively pursue destabilization was I would say a bare minimum, because at the time that the Watergate crisis was happening, and Kissinger just fully transitioned to the Secretary of State at the time. So if you're going to argue for U.S. involvement, you have to say it was very minimum, and that Chile's domestic situation was a product of Allende's poor statesmanship.
Well, for some extent, CIA involvement, I'd put more for the early 1970-1971 period. But the destabilization of Chile, we did have sanctions upon the regime. We did have, I believe we had an embargo for at least 2 of the years during his presidency. And we were exerting massive pressure against the regime. It was internally flawed. I'll completely grant you that. But the American interests against it, I think were fairly significant.
Significant to what extent? You said that the CIA specifically backed Pinochet's coup, and the U.S. and the U.S. actively supported the regime. But formerly, as we know from formerly, after the coup d'etat, we know that Congress actually cut off any form of military aid, to Pinochet's regime, and despite despite contrary to popular belief, it was under the Ford administration that pressured Pinochet on human rights and this went to Carter and Reagan's eventually placing sanctions on them, to usher that transition to democracy. It just it's not clear cut as people on the left make it out to be, or people who are more leaning to isolationism on the right make it out to be. It was it's a complex situation there.
Sure. Perhaps saying they directly supported the coup, we didn't have troops on the ground. What we did do is, and going back to the assassination of Rene Schneider, it was a plan to kill him. The question is, did we cancel the plan in time? That was the main debate we were having, and we can come back to this. We funded, I think, at least $50,000 for at the time, which is very significant and still would be now, a small group of military dissidents who were not happy with Rene Schneider's policy that the military would not intervene against Allende's government. That was his stance, and there were those within the CIA who believed that it was if Allende were to be removed, Rene Schneider had to be out of a position of power in the government. And we can probably pull up some documents. I'm sure we can screen share, talking about Kissinger and talking about the memos he wrote. And the main debate is, I think, surrounding, I'm trying to remember the date, but it's the letter a month or so before the assassination, where Kissinger seems to be saying we need to de-escalate somewhat. And the question is, did we, or were we still supporting the assassins right for the moment where they pulled the trigger and killed Schneider?
Okay, I sent you a article about that, dealing with that topic, right? From the Commentary magazine, wherever.
I believe in that. Yeah, I'm gonna start looking up some documents right now.
Okay, let me get that link. Yeah, this is going so far so good.
I feel like we're going into territory of the DMs, but yeah. Well, to prevent dead air, I will fully say this right off the bat: I was not a fan of, or I'm not a fan of the Allende regime, and I don't like the apologetics that come into place whenever the USA intervenes against another country. How there's a knee-jerk reaction by many people, more isolationist, to immediately defend whoever's in power of the country that we just intervened in.
Well,
because they're not more likely they're not going to be very good people. Whether or not we should intervene is a different question, but very often those defenses I'm not sympathetic to.
Well, since my view is this was during the time of the Cold War, and we didn't really like Castro with good reason. So why not fight those things? Why not compete for supremacy over the global South?
So would you have been more in support of increased U.S. presence in the destabilization or not?
No. I would not. As with Nixon, I wouldn't be too happy of Allende being elected president. Yeah, I'm just gonna share screen. Okay, this should be good.
It's not coming up here for this side.
Oh no. Come on.
That was weird. Great job, StreamYard. Very high quality, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Oh, you also sent me a Hitchens essay about that too, right?
Yeah, I think they had a Guardian article on it, but that was generally about Kissinger. That was
Okay. In Washington, meanwhile, President Richard Nixon was hardly pleased by the prospect of a Allende's presidency and was taking steps to prevent it. This much been a matter of public record for nearly 30 years. The primary sources are two reports by a committee led by the late Democratic Senator Frank Church of Idaho, Action in Chile, 1963 through 1973, both published in 1975. The findings of the Church Committee exonerated the administration of unlawful activity, a noteworthy fact in the light of the circumstances that both chairmen and the majority of the members, even more their staffs, were unremittingly hostile to the Nixon White House and anxious, if possible, to find embarrassing linkage between it and the events in Chile. And, you want to read the next paragraph?
One second, I'm trying to get this full screen, but this is not working.
Okay.
Oh, you just scrolled down. Where are we at?
In 1998.
Okay. 1998, the Clinton administration was moved by the arrest in London of Allende's successor, the dictator Augusto Pinochet, to order the heavily redacted declassification of some 17,000 official U.S. documents relating to the period. The most important of these have been placed on the website of the National Security Archive, a left-wing organization not to be confused with the U.S. National Archives. They also form the basis of a new book by the archivist Peter Kornbluh, the Pinochet File, a declassified dossier on atrocity and accountability, released this past September 11th, which I believe was the anniversary of the coup, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Great things have been claimed for the Clinton declassification. Thanks to them, Christopher Hitchens has been able to boast that in his book, I produced government documents that plainly show the orchestration of a plot to murder General Rene Schneider. Likewise, he remarked, in the suit filed by the general's family, every paper for the prosecution is a declassified document of the U.S. government. In fact, however, the Clinton declassifications were less rich in information than the findings of the Church Committee, which was able to examine the documentary and core in its how you say that word? Unpurgated in an unpurgated form, and also to interrogate the participants under the earth. Nor do the Clinton classifications contribute anything particular useful to the case against Kissinger. Some of them actually corroborate the findings of the Church Committee, and what is even more ironic, support Kissinger's own version of events as laid out in his relevant volumes of his memoirs. Okay, blah, 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 blah.
Transcripts, yeah.
Blah, 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 blah.
Speaking of which, many of the phone calls, I remember after our conversation, tapes between Kissinger and Nixon, I've been trying to find the actual copies of the recordings, and I'm slightly convinced they don't exist. Like, I've been told they're out there and people have examined them, but I haven't been able to find the copies of them.
What
I've
do
been
you
able
mean?
to find loose transcripts. There were some calls between Kissinger and Nixon, supposedly, I think in 1972, that were supposed to be damning or something, and they were one of the ones I wanted to find hard copies of, and even I couldn't find them. I searched for hours online, and I can find all sorts of other documents that have been released, but couldn't get them. Yeah. Here we go.
Okay, track 1, track 2. How do you think this is going so far? Okay, okay, found it. You want to read this one? Chief obstacle to track 2.
Hold on. The chief obstacle to track 2 was General Rene Schneider, commander-in-chief of the Chilean army. His view, simply stated, was that since the politicians had gotten the country into the mess in which it found itself, the politicians would have to find a way out. This position he maintained sturdily throughout September and October in the face of almost daily representations by retired officers, politicians, and businessmen begging him to save the country, either by supporting a constitutional coup or by some other means. As General Carlos Prats, the second in command, has reported Schneider's words to him at the time, the politicians are maneuvering to push the army into an adventure. They should understand that we are not so stupid as to realize that they want to use us, some to preserve the political unity, others as a trampoline for a vow. When Schneider proved intransigent, the intermediaries tried to persuade Prats, again to no effect. The architects of Track 2 then focused on circumventing Schneider by kidnapping him and sending him to neighboring Argentina for a season while the political situation was adjusted. And that may be referencing the first attempt to kidnap him, or that could be referencing the second attempt where they ended up killing him.
First attempt.
That's the first attempt.
Kissinger told Nixon by telephone on October 15, reporting on the meeting on Thomas something German with the CIA Western Hemisphere Division. This looks hopeless. I turned it off. Nothing will be worse than an abortive coup. The president responded, just telling him to do nothing. The next day, the CIA headquarters cable is stationed in Santiago. Although we are continuing to generate maximum pressure towards a coup, Viet's coup will fail, and Viet should warn against I can't say that word. Let's move on. The message was delivered through an intermediary, leaving the CIA with a pious hope that once its wishes have been known, Viets will respect them. So according to this article, it was effectively terminated.
1 second. This was referring. Can you go scroll back up very slightly?
Okay.
Did they give the date? Because the kidnapping was on the 22nd. And I think the letter we were thinking about was October 17th or October 15th, whenever Kissinger gave the kill order to turn off the operation to Nixon. I do remember we had a bit of a problem with the CIA. 2 chickens.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay, let me screen share this real quick.
Okay.
If this is going to work. Application window. Let's do this. Okay, is it coming in?
Yes. That.
All right. This is the. I think this is the document we were looking at.
Yeah.
Earlier. And I want to make sure I'm not looking at the wrong one. I'm going back to the DMs trying to figure out which one it was, but. In any case, as of the 18th, I believe it was, we were still planning on sending them weapons. So whenever Kissinger told Nixon on the 15th that we were to hold off on the operation, one of the theories I've heard is that the CIA kind of had their own plans. They didn't listen to Kissinger, and they went ahead and tried to get the kidnapping done, proving that they could have a stable operation and that Kissinger would be proved wrong. I'm skeptical of that, but that's one of the main controversies we have regarding what happened, because Kissinger himself was a part of the initial plan to support the Vacu, which was planned for the October. And we had already given them money, we had given them weapons, we had given them assistance. And then a week or so before it actually happens, or the attempted kidnapping, in which case it turned into assassination very quickly, he gave the off switch to Nixon. Now already, just from that alone, if that were a modern day politician, if that were Mike Pompeo or John Bolton, okay, giving the order to go get someone we don't like, let's say Assad, we're supporting a coup. Maybe this is the Syrian Free can't talk right now. The Syrian Free Army. Maybe it's a terrorist faction within the country. And then a week before it happens, even though we've already given them money, already given them funds, already given them arms, we call it off in a memo. And then it goes through and Assad dies. I still think there's grounds to say that's very controversial at the least, and especially since there were discrepancies between the CIA station and the State Department. I mean, that would be in today's news cycle, that would still dominate. That'd be a big damn deal, you know.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
back in the day because like they had like a bunch of serious investigations of the intelligence community. But what they found
and
out,
the church committee, yeah.
what the church community found out was after the termination of the two tracks, they just pretty much funded opposition parties to Allende. They funded the Christian Democrats and newspapers. It was quite a bit of
Montalva.
money. It was quite a bit of money.
What's funny, we had funded Montalva, who was the predecessor to Allende. We had funded him with millions of dollars for years during his prior terms, and we were funding his party even afterwards. And that's kind of the funny thing is people blame us for being too pro Pinochet, when in truth he's a center left figure. He also had land reform. He also wanted to nationalize the copper industry, which was booming at the time. And people kind of like to write that little part out of history, is that we weren't actually, our primary support wasn't for a reactionary right-wing fascist government in the region. It was for a social democrat, maybe even borderline socialist government we were supporting, just not Allende, because of his support for Castro and the Soviets and the Eastern Bloc.
And also the fact that he was intransigent, a radical, also a generally awful person.
And another big one, which I can't stress enough, is we'd invested millions into the region, helping develop industry, especially in mining and I keep going back to the copper industry. And while I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I should probably look that up. Montalva, yeah.
You're American. You pronounce
It
anything you
doesn't
want.
matter. It's all correct. Whatever comes out of my mouth, it's all good. Yeah, well, he had been nationalizing as well, but he had been giving reparations to the restitution to the companies, which is fair. They invested tons of money. They deserve to have some of it back if it's going to be nationalized henceforth. But then they said, nope, full nationalization. We're going to take all the profits. And that on its own probably did warrant sanctions. He gets defended a bit too much.
Well,
because Pinochet comes next, he kind of gets looked at in a more favorable light, but he wasn't a saint.
yeah, okay. All right. The Nixon. Okay. After the failures of the CIA tracks, Nixon went on to just basically what is called a invisible blockade. Right. You keep mentioning sanctions, but more specifically, Allende was not giving U.S. businesses just compensation for the nationalization. So Nixon responded by basically cutting them all from the international financial scene. They cut off from international credit. They cut off from basically foreign credit, foreign investments, all that good stuff. So whether that was an appropriate response or a good response,
I mean, as far as Nixon's foreign policy goes, that is the least offensive Nixon foreign policy. I can't complain against that. If that's what Nixon has, sanctions whenever a country is messing with our businesses overseas, I'm not gonna. For all the things I criticize him about, I'll give him a pass on that.
I give him plenty. I give him a lot
Fine,
of passes. Before we got to Allende or Chile, like I was defending like Nixon, defending Nixon on Vietnam, and defending him on.
Don't say Cambodia.
Wait, what?
I said don't say Cambodia.
That South Vietnam, North Vietnam can be largely responsible. What happened to Cambodia?
They at most were a supply line, and a mass carpet bombing. Well, we can get into that. That can be another subject. That's we don't need
I'm just saying is that North Vietnam violated the neutrality of Cambodia and Laos. They violated that. They broke international law. If we want to bring that into discussion,
and internally carpet bombed Cambodia, including many rural areas where there was not that much support for the North and North Vietnamese. There wasn't great evidence they were moving weapons through there, and there was good evidence we were killing many civilians in the process.
The point is, they invaded Cambodia to take over South Vietnam. And I'm not going to defend the bombings, but the actions within a certain frame, with a certain context, makes a lot of strategic sense to wipe out the sanctuaries that they were forming in Cambodia. You know,
Strategic sense, I understand. And once again, this is no defense of Ho Chi Minh. I mean, the man slaughtered Trotskyists in the country. He was a brutal dictator. Well, I say dictator, but it's also important to realize that our actions in Cambodia, if they had been more controlled, Khmer Rouge might have not risen to power. Pol Pot may have never risen to power.
but the thing is, it was controlled. Do you know how much they could not? There was a series of congressional restrictions and legislation of basically saying we cannot send military aid, military advisors, food to Cambodia. So bombings was the only real thing that the United States can do at that time. You know?
I wasn't aware we couldn't send aid. That actually would be new to me.
We did not send aid.
I know we didn't, but I didn't know that
legally we were prohibited to send aid.
Huh.
See,
I actually wasn't aware of that one. But
when people bring this up, it was just when conservatives, like people like from the PragerU channel, said like it was congressional restrictions, but they don't bring up the fact that these were highly. It was a litany, a series of detailed congressional restrictions of U.S. involvement activities can do in Cambodia and Laos and Vietnam. So that's why one of the reasons why the peace failed, or the peace agreement in Paris failed, because the United States was tied due to.
Well, the Cambodia bombings were after the peace agreement, weren't they?
No, not after the peace agreement. It was during the negotiations. The bombings can be seen as a bargaining chip at that time.
Huh.
So.
Yeah. Okay. I guess they were. All right. We can get into that more if you want. We'll talk about Nixon as a whole. It's your stream. What topics were you added on the agenda for today?
Well, I was hoping more people would join, but
I mean, we're Charlie and Lapis. Whatever happened to them?
They got lives.
That's sad.
That's not sad. At least they're living their lives.
See, I was actually expecting to have to argue with Lapis today, because we've argued over Yugoslavia in the past.
Yugoslavia? What happened? Oh, wait, in
the 90s, yeah. We had some. That was almost a year ago now, probably a year. We had a DM fight over the American involvement, the extent of Milosevic's actions. So I was expecting to kind of get into more of that territory. Because, but if she doesn't want to come,
what's her argument? I think she's busy, or away from her computer or phone or something.
Sorry about that. My internet is going. I'm currently on my Wi-Fi hotspot on my phone, and it's on low battery. So let me plug this in real quick, actually.
So, oh man,
yeah, power is out here. So,
isn't Oklahoma a wonderful state?
Oh no, I love it though. It's beautiful. Just occasionally, massive wind funnels of death come down from the sky and kill people. But other than that,
oh man. Yeah, they got lives. So who knows? They might join in an hour or 45 minutes or so. You never know with them. But
do you have? Because I know we were going to do it other days. Chili.
I don't know.
What else has been you've been thinking about?
The Kurds. But my position on the Kurds is a bit more complex and complicated. So if any of my leftist friends find out what I have to say about them, I might lose them in the process. But my position is that the Kurdish state was never a realistic goal. And what's happening right now with the withdrawal from troops and Turkey planning its its military offenses against them and against ISIS, it put them at the mercy, or put them at the sword of Turkish soldiers, and that is a real problem. But I take the view that this was going to happen in some form or another, because the tendency of U.S. presidents in the 21st century is to basically withdraw, not really withdraw, not really retreat to isolationism, but pull back to have a more realistic involvement in hotbeds of the world, in hot areas of the world, such as the Middle East, to almost escape it. And this is what Trump is doing right now. He's following that general pattern. I think this probably would have happened under a Clinton administration too. And it happened in the previous administration to the extent that Obama didn't really did not respond to Bashar al-Assad when he used chemical weapons on his own people. When he violated those red lines, he did not respond forcefully as he proclaimed in his rhetoric. So,
yeah. By the way, you're cutting in and out a lot on my side, so I might have you repeat a few things, but I'm getting the general gist.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as what you said earlier about the plausibility of a Kurdish state, I actually had a pretty big Twitter argument with a guy about that a few weeks back. And definitely for North Syria, or not North Syria, West Syria more, it was always going to be unlikely the Kurds were going to be able to hold any of their gains against Assad. I was more optimistic about northern Iraq. I thought around Abdul and some of the cities they had claimed they were fighting ISIS, and given that Iraq had made some pushes for giving them semi-autonomous, like the Peshmerga, or I think the PDK Peshmerga, were going to be the only ones allowed to operate within the region. The Iraqi government couldn't send any troops in there. There were some concessions made after our withdrawal in 2011. And so for a while, I was really hopeful that maybe not state, but the building blocks of a larger Kurdistan state could be in the works. But after this withdrawal, it seems like any chance that had is going to it's collapsing pretty fast. And Turkey, right now there's conflict, but we're in a very tight, very tense diplomatic situation where Russia and Assad, the Kurds and the Turks all have major interests in the region, as does ISIS and terrorist factions. And they're all kind of vying for influence in different land. And the USA fully withdrawing from that, especially while Russia is still involved, I think is going to be a very big long-term mistake.
Well, they're still there protecting the oil fields, as several public administrations proclaim publicly.
I think I'm still in northern Iraq, but
don't you find that to be a little bit funny?
They're so on brand. Good old Republicans.
War for oil. No, you don't find that funny. You'll see the irony in that.
I mean, it's what they do. I mean, it's hard to be surprised at this point, but that's Republicans on foreign policy. If you could have 10 years of consistent foreign policy from the GOP, that would be spectacular. But every decade or so, it kind of flops.
I don't know. Reagan's foreign policy seemed to be pretty consistent. He was in office for 8 years, and Bush, 14 years of.
I guess Reagan and Bush should be because you had I would say you had a difference from immediately after World War II. Then you switch over with Nixon, and you have more aggressive approach against communism.
No, wait, no. Nixon was not aggressive. He was not an aggressive foreign policy.
Okay.
You know why, right?
What?
You know the reasons why I will not consider him to be aggressive. I will not consider him to be a hog, but more so of a dove. You know why?
Why?
What do you know about the strategic arms limitation treaties?
Not so much, I suppose.
The thing is, these were arms control treaties with the Russian government or the Soviet Union.
Restricting nuclear arms movements.
Yes, and also limiting anti-ballistic missiles, keeping with military priority with the Soviet Union at the time. There was also massive reductions toward U.S. Military defense budgets under the Nixon and Ford and Carter era. Well, till the end of the Carter administration, anyway. So
But I mean, as we got more into a detente, less brinksmanship, let's say, proxy wars started to be more of the common theme. It was less direct tension, where you'd have USSR troops on the border of Afghanistan ready to go in, for example. That's way afterwards. You'd have U.S. involvement helping the Mujahideen. We'd be supporting factions instead of potential. Because I mean, if you look at the end of World War II, you had USSR and American troops in the millions right next to each other as the peace process is going out, and we're very lucky that things got settled down there, and also there wasn't an immediate massive nuclear proliferation threat. Like, if we
that's
had nuclear weapons, uh, if for some reason we had the nuclear capacities we had in the 60s immediately after World War II, like it went from no nuclear weapons in World War II to immediately the 1960s proliferation, that could have been the end of the world
that's
in
the
terms
thing.
of. Yeah.
That's the thing. After the Cuban Missile Crisis, there was a moment called that. Oh my god, there was some type of logic to mutually sure destruction.
Hey,
So
maybe we shouldn't kill each other. Huh.
that's the thing.
Didn't
That's
consider.
frightened everybody, including the people in the USSR and people especially in America. So that's why they have in 1963 they signed the nuclear test ban treaty, basically banning aerial testing. And under the Johnson administration, you have this weather nuclear test ban treaty they did, but under the Nixon administration, they negotiated an arms control treaty, and they also allowed aerial or satellite reconnaissance over the two countries and make sure they're not actually planning to use their nuclear missiles or weapons, so making war between the superpowers as obsolete as possible.
What was
That's
the
like
name for that?
what
It was like something umbrella. There was a name for it, and I'm blanking on it right now.
uh,
I thought it was something umbrella or that kind of policy, but it's
I
not
don't
quite
know.
coming. Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, though.
So that's why I don't really consider Nixon to be a hawkish president because he pursued
Who
arms
would you
control.
say, uh, yeah, 20th century most hawkish president? Who would you put that for?
Reagan and the right
Reagan.
D Eisenhower and John F.
Okay.
Kennedy and LBJ. Okay, let me rephrase that. Reagan, LBJ, and the right D Eisenhower.
And probably FDR third term. We could have to put that in there.
Okay. The
I
most
mean,
dovish
it's hard. It's hard not to for that. I mean,
the most dovish presidents, Nixon, Jimmy
most.
Carter,
Um,
JFK to a lesser extent, but he's a bit more complicated. No, wait, no, I want to put JFK. He was somewhere in between Hawk and Dove, but also probably George H.W. Bush because I think he has like the best post Cold War policy out of the presidents, honestly.
for foreign policy,
Yeah, like I like Bush the elder. I think he has the best foreign policy
yeah.
out of the in more recent years.
I mean, we've only had like 4 presidents. We have a Clinton, we've had Bush, we've had Obama, we've had Trump. And Clinton was, God, Clinton gets too much credit for his time in office. So people kind of like to remember it as a golden era, but he set up a lot of problems.
Yeah, also there was a bunch of scandals in that era too.
What? Clinton scandals? What
Scandals.
are you talking about? I've never heard of any Clinton era scandals.
Oh.
Terrible.
Honestly, I like Bill Clinton. I think he's a good. I love the presidents who are currently living. I would hang out with Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared he's a rapist, though.
I
That's.
don't. I just. That's,
I
he
mean,
just. He just seems to be more relatable to black people than even Barack Obama for some reason. I don't know how to explain that.
I don't know. He always seems kind of chill, but I know. I'll be entirely honest on the Monica Lewinsky and some of the other allegations. Juanita Broderick. There's one area of politics that we still talk about today that I don't have very much knowledge of, like at all. That's it. I never. It seemed like it was a can of worms I didn't want to open, and I've been refusing to get in debates about the kind of stuff for the last 5 years or so. So,
Oh man.
yeah.
So how would you position yourself if you're alive in the Cold War and active in those debates? Will you put yourself as a Cold War warrior,
Oh
or
wow.
be part of the peace movement, be against Vietnam, against U.S. imperialism?
Oh my gosh, that's a question. Probably more in the Cold War liberalism spirit. I, it's a tough question.
You don't want to be
It's
part. You don't
possibly.
want to be like Noam Chomsky and declare everything that you don't like as a
Oh,
war crime.
God damn! I don't want to be Noam Chomsky. Don't. Because the thing is, I remember I would not be part of the peace movement as with reference to the people who are within it. Many of them whom I would never want to associate with. But
But you'd be associating with your people. You'd be associating with communists, people who are against U.S. imperialism and militarism, against the U.S. empire, and also be around with a bunch of hippies. Imagine, just imagine being a bunch of hippies. I hate hippies. Okay, let me tell you something. Tell you something. Really, the reason why I like Nixon because he did not like hippies too, and he did like a bunch of petty things to them.
yeah, much I know. Yeah.
Oh, hippies. Speaking of hippies, have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Once, no, I have not.
Dang, you should see that movie. It's great.
I think I've heard of it before.
Yes. It's just basically alternative history by Quentin Tarantino, and let's just say it's really cathartic at the end.
Is it a new one?
Yeah, it's a new one. It came out
Okay.
this year. It came out this summer.
Oh,
Hippies.
God.
I'm sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry, but hippies makes me just thinking about them makes me laugh.
See, this is why we need more leftists on the stream, so they could fight back on your anti-hippie position.
No, if I, the other lefty first, nah. I think only hippie I probably know is leftist, but she's not much of a hipster. She's more like a hipster. Um,
This is going to be a very difficult era of history to explain to our children.
no. Don't think of it as
Tough.
history. Think of it as clown world.
They're
Think
not going to
about it.
understand that.
Yes, they will. They have the Joker movie now to watch.
No.
So think about that. This is clown world. And the only way to escape the clown, you know what makes a clown world is basically imagine being stuck in a burning theater and a clown is just keeping you there, making you laugh while the theater just slowly corrupts around you while you're just laughing at this clown. This clown is convincing you to stay. You're distracted from real world problems.
Well, speaking of clown and things collapsing around us, who are you looking at for 2020? What are your
Uh,
bets? What's gonna happen?
I don't care.
Okay.
Who cares? Like,
I kind of care a bit about
no,
the
no.
future of our country. Okay.
The thing is that my position is I wish people stop giving. Like, I follow a bunch of left wing people on Twitter. You have people like supporting Bernie Sanders or AOC, but that's just sort of just like made me realize that those two people are human and fallible. They're not going to make any real major changes in American society. They're just populist figures. And it is more so just distracting. It's just more of an opportunity to just to grandstand and moralize while not doing anything real meaningful with your life or trying to do something meaningful with your own within your own spirit influence. What you actually control in your life and your community, than just worrying about some guy from Vermont running for president who's probably not going to be even elected. Yes.
Yeah, one second. You're cutting out me massively, and also the power's back on, so I'm gonna real quick switch over to Wi-Fi. So I might
Yeah.
cut out for a second here.
Wait, am I cutting out on the stream or just you?
I think it's just me
Okay.
because my computer and my Wi-Fi is crap. So just 1 second here.
Please join. Please join. Anyone join? Come on, join. Years of people. Oh, I can. Oh, what? Just gonna get John the link. Okay. Look like there's only one person watching this. Are you gonna comment?
Okay,
Or do I have to talk to myself for the next couple of minutes?
I think I'm back. You good?
Wait, are you just a voice in my head?
Yes.
Oh.
I mean
Oh.
that's how voice works. So yeah, kind of.
So you're just a voice in my head? So that why do I sound like a white guy? Like
I don't know. We should get that checked out.
yeah, I should. Yo, like it's nice to have a voice of reason letting me know that I'm crazy.
All right.
I've been also I've been give S Man the link. Honestly, I don't know. How do you feel about S Man?
We're pretty good friends. We disagree on policy sometimes. Some of the libertarian stuff, Second Amendment kind of thing, we agree on more. Intervention, we're pretty much opposed, but we're still pretty civil in most stuff. So.
Yeah. I'm not gonna send the link. But you know. I sent my friend John a link, although he's not really interested in this kind of stuff. Hey, if you have any friends on Twitter online who's willing to do like a stream, send them the link. You know?
Sure.
Man. Man. So let's see. How we met? How we talk?
What's that?
How we met anyway?
We met. I have no idea.
Uh,
A while back.
okay. Mm. Let's see. Yeah. So let's see. See. Mm. Okay. So.
All right.
So what's going on? What else is going on other in the Middle East right now? Southeast Asia is more interesting
Right
than
now?
the Middle East. Asia is more interesting in the Middle East, like from a geopolitical perspective.
Do you want to talk about Hong Kong? What's going on down there?
Hong Kong. I haven't been keeping up with Hong Kong, but like when you just take like a grand look at Asia, it's just at the precipice of being. Is at the precipice of state of development and economic modernization, and might be in a position in in early 20th century Europe, where you basically have nationalist and populist movements just overtaking their already established governments. I just find that I just view that it's in the U.S. position to just basically guide developments in Asia to have like a more like just have like just basically promote state stability in these developing countries.
Well, the country that's got me most people worry about China. That's been pretty obvious. That's been
I
even in the Democratic Party. You're having Warren and Bernie saying, or pretty much everyone on stage, kind of coming out and saying they're a geopolitical. I won't say foe, but a competitor. A competitor. I can't pronounce words. Um, and not necessarily like a military foe, but definitely in terms of who's going to have the key currency for trade, whether that's going to be China or the U.S. as China starts to move into a consumption service sector economy, is a big question. The fact that their population base is several times larger than ours, and even though their demographics are starting to trend to more older ages, they're still going to have a pretty significant edge in the U.S. in that. But the country I've been researching at least more has been India, because there you have nationalism in China, but in India especially, you have terrible press freedom, you have a pretty nationalist sentiment going on, and you have a country that, in terms of population growth, might even outstrip China in the coming years, and it's still developing fast.
Man, I have not given a thought about India. I don't really care about India.
Yeah.
But
Well, actually,
China, but I think in the coming years, US relations with China will define the 21st century in our lifetimes. And it's kind of a shame, despite the gains that Nixon made with China, Nixon, Reagan, and up to George Bush and Bill Clinton.
yeah.
It's just kind of shame that there's just nationalist elements in their government just basically going just being more competitive. But we're at the opportunity to have really cooperative relationship with China, and we still need to pursue conciliatory policies in the long run of things with China.
Well, the
Just
thing is, the next president in 2020, if it's Trump again, then we're talking about 2024. But they're going to be in position where we have massive, massive tariffs on billions of dollars of goods against China. And so, in terms of leverage against them, we're going to be able to have some concessions. Like we could go to them and say, with North Korea, we need help having them calm down a bit. And China, they're kind of trying to reestablish a Monroe Doctrine, but for themselves. They're trying to keep the USA, push us out. They want to be in control of the South China Sea. And North Korea is attracting attention. So that's actually a concession we could probably get more help on. Help with Hong Kong, help with North Korea, and we can open up their economy again. Not to the extent Nixon did, but we can make their economy extraordinarily wealthy again, releasing billions of dollars back into it. And and the thing is, the fact that Trump hasn't used this as leverage yet is just so frustrating, because he is a true economic protectionist.
I
But
am a tariff man.
as a tariff. But I mean, we're set up perfectly to get to the table with China and make good long-term plans with them. And I mean, if I couldn't imagine a better scenario to be in. There's no immediate military conflict. We have goals we want to be solved with Hong Kong, with North Korea, in the South China Sea especially. And we have the leverage for the first time, and maybe the last time, because China right now, they're trying to have extend agricultural gains, and they're trying to extend steel production gains. There's an article on it a few months ago out of Bloomberg, and there had been a Chinese department who came up with a master list of where they were most hurt by U.S. sanctions, and Xi specifically made sure that they would target that so that they can never be leveraged on it with again. They'd be self-sufficient in those areas. That's kind of scary to me, and that means that for the next 5 years or so, maybe 8 or 9, maybe pushing it back a bit more, we're going to have leverage on China, and we have some foreign policy goals we could pursue. After that period, once they get self-sufficiency, if the BRIC Bank, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, if that gets created, if the Belt and Road Initiative gets created and they start creating their own economic bloc, we're going to lose all leverage. And I mean, they're already expanding into Africa. I think
Wait,
2018, they have a military base in Djibouti. They created the African Council Union building. They're
wait,
expanding.
let's slow down a bit. There's a lot of alarmism and people being scared of China, China being a serious economic and military competitor with you on par with the USA. But I think when people bring up the Belt and Road Initiative, like of them just of them being the largest creditor and builder infrastructure in Africa and other Asian countries, we have to understand that they are ultimately still an export economy, and they're still need to be reliant on the West for trade and goods and services. So I think it'd be
Some
a, but I think it's unrise. I think it's unrise. It's just like you put it as leverage, but this like leverage concessions like the U.S. and China are both have
we need to
similar
find a way to
interests.
do it.
They have both similar interests. They're both China wants to be a established commercial sea power. The U.S. is already is, so their interests is aligned already economically speaking. But the problem with the U.S. but problem with American policymakers are they just want to see a domestic transformation of Chinese society and governance.
Yeah,
And so there was arguments over 30 years ago that China will be a full-blown democracy in 2015.
yeah,
But that didn't happen.
no,
But you have
and it's probably
disaster.
not gonna. It's probably not gonna happen. I
It's not
mean,
it's
it,
not gonna happen, but
and
I
even
think
the Chinese culture has never been a very liberal one. It would be it'd be difficult to see that happening. But my concern with China isn't so much a concern that China is gonna invade us and take us over, or even that we're gonna not direct conflict, but rather it's that the USA is going to lose much of the things that have been keeping us up over the years. One of the big things we have is a massive consumption economy that no other country in the world can dare challenge. And the thing with China is, as they're moving from a more manufacturing based country to a more service sector based economy, as they're getting into the tertiary sector more, um, they're going to challenge us on those grounds on consumption. And we're seeing it a bit with Europe. We're seeing it with American companies, really going against U.S. interests, trying to get as much Chinese money as they can. There is a large consumption base that's going to erupt out of China, and it's already happening. It's not just going to be manufacturing, which has been us consuming from them, getting tons of cheap products. There's going to be a shift, and it's going to be relatively soon. Next 2 decades, we're going to start to see it more and more.
or we might see an absolute collapse. Or we might see the absolute collapse of the Chinese economy because their financial system is really terrible and weak.
Yeah. Well, this is also key because the U.S. Economy, we do have a strong financial sector, but one of the things that's been keeping us, I don't want to say afloat because we're more than just afloat, we're very strong, is the fact that we're still in charge of the key currency. For international trade, U.S. dollars are better than the gold standard. We are it.
Ooh, oh
Yeah,
man, you're gonna piss off some
yeah,
libertarian gold bugs right now.
I'm just saying, if you go to many different foreign countries, I'm okay. Maybe gold, maybe that's still king. But with currencies for international governments, China right now is nowhere near us. They're not competitive. What makes them competitive is that they're going to have large imports, they're going to have a large consumption base, and the only way that anyone will be able to beat us, the USA, because we are a massively high consumption economy, is if one, we have to artificially reduce our consumption, which people are arguing for to fight climate change, and two, another country simply just has massive, many times more people than us. Which the only
Blue,
two countries that fit that really, China and India, are the ones that are really outstripping us.
Blue, why are you taking away my childhood? I should be in school right now.
We should be.
And you're just talking about economic growth.
Yeah,
This is a
I love this. This is my favorite. Yeah.
wait. You don't see what I'm doing here.
No.
You don't see that I'm making fun of Greta Thunberg.
Oh my god. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I try to not discuss her at all because people get upset really quickly.
I can't. Man, I was hoping for generating laughs. Dang.
You're not allowed to insult her at all. It's illegal. If you do, you're
No, no, I'm not insulting her. I'm just making fun of that speech.
you're making fun of her. I see. Mm-hmm.
It's just her speech.
Still my childhood.
You stole my childhood. I should be in school right now. And all you people are talking about economic man. I can't take that seriously. It's not power. It's not really. You want to know a good speech? It needs to be more power. Or it
Yeah.
penetrate me with a good speech. It needs to be like extremely powerful. That's something I can resonate with. Like this shocked me down to my core. And my favorite speech, my favorite movie speech, is actually the Great Dictator speech by Charlie Chaplin.
Oh yeah, that's a great. That's a classic.
Yeah. See, so
The
you
thing
get
is, it's always so awkward with kids in politics. How you deal with that, and I mean, how I don't know how old you are, but on the national stage, when they're on TV in front of tens of millions of people, it's hard to talk about them and not sound like an asshole.
Oh,
It's
who
like
cares?
either
I
you,
mean, who cares at this point? You can
yeah,
just criticize the parents. You can say the parents are not good people, or you just say, "Oh
yeah.
my God, something's not right with that child. Like, why are you being emotional?"
God damn it. Well, the thing is, I think she's supposed to be autistic, or she has Asperger's, and she has selective mutism, and she has a lot of different problems with her. And I get that climate change is a serious problem, but in terms of having a messenger for your goal, it's not making the conversation any better.
No. They're cheating. They're invoking humanity, and I want to take the humanity out. I want to take the human element out of it, huh? Look like these people. We understand from the raw data that any serious global changes, um, okay, from my understanding, climate scientists tend to make models and make predictions from those said models. But when you look at the raw data. This is from a friend. Don't take my word on it. This
Okay.
is pure hearsay. I'm not. I'm not prepared on this. I don't care much. Climate change is not a big issue on my mind, but from a friend of mine, he says that there hasn't been like any real. There's nothing real alarming about what's happening right now, since there hasn't been like any real changes to global temperatures in over a decade. From a raw data standpoint, you know.
That I think from 1998 to 2008, because we had a massive El Nino year, 1998, and so there was a whole bunch of talk about how for a decade we had no warming, but temperatures have been warming since.
But how
I,
much though? By a lot or very slowly?
I think they're generally online with models, but the problem is you get the rhetoric that say we only have 10 years left to survive. Um, that's not true. If you couldn't discern that one for yourself already, but
Oh wait. Before we go on, I like to say I'm sorry for bringing up Greta Thunberg. She is a very wonderful
she's
person, and
brave and stunning.
she's brave and able to speak so powerfully in front of people who don't really care much about her in the first place. Is something to be. It's truly inspiring. Talking in
Yeah, at
front
her
of
age,
talking to a bunch of old white people at a UN convention. That is so brave.
That's
It's
scary.
ultimately meaningless in the end. People won't remember her in 20 years, but hey,
Ooh.
this is her moment. This is her moment. This is her 15 minutes of shame. Am I being too much? Am I being mean here?
I don't know, man. The thing is, it's. I told you, man. Children in national politics is a bad mix. It just shouldn't happen. But
Just I just I'm trying to bring some liberty here. I don't care about her.
um,
I don't really care. I hope nobody. It's just
I do have a question because you're fairly foreign policy focused. What's your opinion on Kashmir, but more in total, Pakistan, India, that kind
Pax,
of conflict going on?
Pax. You have two nuclear powers
Yeah.
going at each other. Um,
I feel like we should be more concerned about that. You know.
I wouldn't be. I personally wouldn't be concerned. As long as it's contained and well managed, we have nothing to worry about. It's as long as it's contained, well managed by the international system or by the international society. There is no real concern about that.
Oh,
Just
you know about the OSINT blackout that went down 6 months ago or 4 months ago?
tell me about it. I haven't heard of it.
Oh, okay. So OSINT is open source intelligence. It's pretty much civilian, the civilian version of military intelligence. And so back in God, it was like February of 2019. There was a pretty massive move by India after some big terrorist attacks that killed a bunch of soldiers. And India crossed a former DMZ line that hadn't been crossed since for like over 40 years, and it's the first time it's been crossed by fighter jets since both countries got nuclear weapons. So it was kind of a big deal at the time. And a bunch of open source intelligence accounts on Twitter, on Facebook, were reporting on it. They have their own websites as well. And what's fascinating is some of the reports were false. Like they had said one of the terrorists, Jaish-e-Mohammed, he had been killed, when in fact he had actually survived attack. And there were many various reports that kind of messed that up. But what happened with India is the Indian government looked at these accounts, and many of them are Twitter accounts I followed for well over a year now. Some of them are run by one of them is like an 18-year-old British kid. One of them is a 22-year-old ROTC kid in like Kentucky, I think. So these are not like government actors, and they're good guys. But the Indian government went to Twitter, and there was a mass reporting against them. And at the exact same time, the Indian government claimed that they were potential foreign bots. And 9 or 10 massive accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers just got banned, wiped out. Twitter took them out. And for many days, people were kind of freaking out because at the same time, India were doing more military operations. And what the open source people were doing is there's this great website called flightradar24.com, and you can see aircraft all over the world. Now, for military aircraft, they have a way of blocking the sensors that detect where the aircraft are. The problem is India is still developing, so not all their aircraft can block out the open source intelligence guys. So the open source intelligence people were reporting Indian military positions, just trying to keep the public informed. And so they went to Twitter, they went to US companies and got all these people banned. And so for 24 hours, while there were conflicts going on in and around Kashmir, we had no idea what was going on. A whole bunch of people just got banned, and a few people were like, all right, is there going to be a nuclear war in the next few days, or what's going on, guys? But we got through it, and but some of the accounts came back, some of them didn't. But it was kind of a shock because it was the Indian government targeting like some ROTC kid in Kentucky. And this kind of woke me up to India's number one, their press rights, which they're absolutely terrible at. And they're also the rise in nationalism in India. So I've been getting a little bit more worried about what's going on over there.
Oh man, India. I once read somewhere that the Indian civilization defined itself in its ability to endure their own faith, i.e., the reference to the caste system. And I don't know, India never India's never been a real interest of mine. Yes, I just know
Yeah,
like
no,
I just know it was a British colony, and the decolonization was a painful process. It was just
I mean, before this year, I did not know much about them. I knew the general trend. I had some Indian friends who I've talked to in the past, but as soon as I started digging into it, number one, there's two massive nuclear superpowers in open warfare conflict in various regions in disputed border territory. And then you realize that the good guys who we kind of imagined would be India, because of course Pakistan has a history with like hiding Osama bin Laden and that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, India aren't necessarily the best liberal actors in the region either. And so
no
I was
one is in that
worried.
part of the world. Why do people need to assume that they need to be liberal so therefore they're good?
Oh, they
It
don't
just is.
massacre people, so they're not killing civilians. It's just it was just worrying to me. And
No, it's just like you
yeah.
just okay.
No, I get it. I get it. We hold other countries that are still developing to standards that we don't even always hold up to ourselves. But
No, like the thing is with that's a good healthy humanitarian mentality that you have. Keep that. But my
yeah,
mentality is that this is just how the situation is. We don't need to moralize about it, but we just need to come up what is a good policy and strategy to this how to ultimately manage the crisis on the basis of their actions instead of their domestic ideology. That's my point of view.
yeah. Well, it's funny because I remember Trump came out and said he wanted to mediate between the Pakistani leaders and the Indian president, and
What happened?
all, it didn't happen. All of Twitter was like, "Oh, please, dear God, no. We don't want Trump having to decide foreign policy fate on this." But it's a mess because as with you yourself and with many Americans, we don't really care about India and Pakistan and that conflict that much. It's not on our radar at all. But
Nothing is on our radar. It's just us.
yeah,
Except Europe, we care about Europe, people,
yeah, we care about Europe.
and South, and the New World too, the global South. Okay,
Yeah,
here's okay. You want to get American invested in American foreign policy? It's
no,
simple. Just popularize immigration. Because technically, immigration is an issue of national security too, and people wanted to fortify the borders. So you want to get people invested? There you go. There's your there's your interest. That's the only thing that Americans are hawkish on. Just don't just use the legal process to immigrate to this country. Don't cross the border illegally. That's how you mobilize Americans. Yeah. Oh man, it'd be different with some man. Can you? Yeah, you're not. I thought you'd be more funny.
no, I'm not very funny at all.
No.
No, I'm also very tired because I had test earlier today. And
Oh,
so,
sorry. Yeah. Are you having a good time, enjoying yourself, or am I in bad company?
oh no, this is fun. We don't usually talk about foreign policy as much on stream, but this is good.
Yeah.
I,
Yes.
I think I kind of came into this fully expecting Lapis and Shardy to be here, and we were going to be arguing. But this has been pretty. It's been pretty chill. This has been not bad.
Man, I was hoping to get some last for you, man.
You see, if we can get S Man in, I guarantee you we can get some foreign policy takes.
Nah, no. He's still on stage one. Just
Well,
that's the thing.
yeah.
Is that your dog messing things up?
No, that's my. Might be. I think it's my little brother, or it could be my dog, but same basic difference.
No, I call the stream Years of Upheaval, and this seems more appropriate actually than I thought it would be.
Yeah. I
But
kind of I don't feel. Are you more pessimistic on the future of this geopolitics? Man, are you an optimist? Like, what do you think is going to happen? What's your prediction of this?
America is going to withdraw in about maybe 30 years.
Okay, not a total answer to my question. I mean, like,
Uh,
or we can have another world war, for example. Do you see that
probably.
possible?
Oh, probably not unless something really stupid happens in the Balkans again, or unless Russia to stabilize, and we might be in conflict with the Chinese because they support nationalist groups in Russia, and so the U.S. might have to put boots on the ground to just fight them off if Russia destabilizes and collapses after Putin dies, or Europe can, unless Europe. The thing is, my view on geopolitics and on all of the things, I think we're heading towards a more we are living in a more pluralistic environment than ever before. You have autonomous states, and you have developed, and the third world is still developing. It might get to the point that they might form a powerful military and political coalitions to resist, um, let's say, imperialist powers of the West. So we're heading towards or already in the multipolar world. And the thing is, we just need to figure out the ways to ultimately manage that. Manage that and also to when a regional conflict emerges, the international system should be able to contain and manage that so it won't break out into other wars. So my main prediction is that the international system may become more chaotic as a result of of cyber warfare and advancing advancing
Yeah.
communication and technologies. That's the main word. It may bring back a new breed of anarchy, or unless unless the governments of the world are able to figure out and adjust to these new changes, it may bring forth a everlasting stability.
Okay. You're
Does
talking
that
about
make Does that make
yeah,
sense?
yeah. Uh,
Like, did I ramble a lot? Like, was I clear?
no, I kind of got that. On one point of it though, you said we're getting more multipolar. Do you think the EU is going to be a sustainable institution for the next like 2 decades? I mean, is that going to be one of the main forces, or is it going to collapse and get away? Because I've been kind of skeptical about how much longer it's got.
Okay.
I mean, that's a big topic, but
Thing is, I want a strong and powerful Europe, and Europe as a security commons or security unit was a really good idea for a time being. And people who are for and favor of the EU argue that if we bring up economic capacity, military capacity, it could be a powerful force to resist Russian aggression. That's the one of the main arguments. But
well,
as
funnily enough, many of them are unwilling to expand on NATO, though. That
okay,
the U.S. has been the main impetus in saying. I think France has been okay, but it seems that the U.S. is the only one who really wants to expand military suasion against Russia. I mean, Ukraine as well, but they're not part of NATO yet.
but this is the EU though, so.
Yeah.
But with the European Union, I think I don't want to give definite answers, to be honest,
Yeah, no,
because I
all
don't know,
yeah.
because we don't know what's going to happen in 30 years or so. The EU may collapse, or the EU may be a cohesive and decisive political unit.
Okay, well let's break it down a bit. Brexit right now. If Brexit goes through and Britain leaves, I kind of feel like if that happens, we're going to see at least Italy right now. I think would be the next one. Push for a bid, maybe move to an EFTA system or just exit the European Union as well. I feel like a lot of it's going to hinge on whether or not Britain goes out right away.
Mm. I just know that Europe, in the long run of things, need to reform itself so they can survive the next generations to come. That's my view, which is kind of vague, but the EU as an institution as a whole and their survivability remains up in the air because The thing about when you form like a coalition like that, you're gonna face rigidity over time. And it's up to the national leaders to resolve this quickly and overcome this. Like France and Italy are in a proxy war over Libya right now. No one's talking about that. It's it's rather disturbing to see two European powers just going at it in Africa again, like it's the 19th century during the age of imperialism.
I mean, I
But
believe France, like back in the 90s or something, they had a conflict with Nigeria, and they sent out a few squadrons of bombers, and they destroyed the entirety of the Nigerian Air Force. Like, it's very casualty, and that was just a few decades ago.
yeah, France is probably the most dangerous state that ever came to existence.
That's a wow. I mean, you putting them over USSR and the US. I mean, I would put Nazi Germany, USA, and Russia as more at least lethal forces.
No, they're dangerous in more subtle ways.
Elaborate on that. I mean,
What do you mean?
do you mean like, are you talking about like Napoleon era kind of stuff, or you mean like in even the modern 20th century?
Oh, I'm talking about all the history of France and what they did throughout there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, they helped us with our revolution. That was the beginning of a massive wave of revolutions. Haiti, which was against France, in South America, yeah.
Yes, French. I wouldn't mess with the French. I wouldn't mess with them in international affairs. They can be quite vicious, really vicious. They produce their lines of statesmanship is quite impressive. Just with Germany is a bit more complicated.
Especially nowadays, Germany's a bit of a mess.
Germany always been a mess though.
Yeah, that they have.
Like let's see, but even after denazification, like Germany been remarkably stable since for 70 years.
Yeah, there's a big feeling in Germany of like national guilt for World War II. Even today, there's a sentiment they have a responsibility to keep peace in Europe. Like that's their duty. That's what they need to accomplish now. That's their number one goal, and I can understand that. But
but the thing with Germany is that they also want to be their own independent power. That's the thing. They always want to be a fully mobilized, independent, sovereign, and this is the first time really in their history that they're fully solidified as a nation state. They're not They're not fragmented during the Cold War, during the 19th century or 18th century. It's just this is like a moment of precedence for the German people.
I think at least for 2019, especially, they don't want to be a purely independent, separate state. I entirely disagree with that. They're very much pro EU. This is the impression. Like, I mean, the Alternative for Deutschland, the AfD, they're going to be more independence, autonomy, self determination, but well, right wing. But most of Germany, I'd say, of the voting electorate, 80% are pro EU. That's what I put that at.
Yeah, maybe because they want to control the EU.
Far more immigration skepticism, though. There's immigration skepticism there, but yeah, I think they're also Germany. I think was the impetus for trying to create an EU army, which is still kind of in the works. People are discussing it, which would be very interesting if that were to occur.
Man, it'd be nice to see other Bismarck figure in the 21st century in Germany right now.
Oh God,
you don't like Bismarck?
No, I just kind of have a feeling like we're heading towards another world war. I mean, you said earlier something's going to happen in the Balkans, and we're all going to be drawn into another national conflict. I mean, in Yugoslav wars, it was contained. We had Russian influence for the Slavic roots for the Serbs, but NATO did their job. Greater Serbia didn't materialize, and we had plenty of trials at The Hague. But I feel like Europe is not on the brink of collapse, but just like we're receding from the world stage a bit. Europe, I kind of feel like is going to recede from any alliances they have between each other. And meanwhile, I mean, there used to be this old talking point. The USA spends more money on the military than the next 25 nations combined, 24 of whom are allies. And the one who wasn't was the USSR or Soviet Union. And the funny thing is, you look at the data today, it's only more than the next 8 nations, I think. And the next 3 are China, who's a geopolitical competitor, Russia, who's an outright foe, and Saudi Arabia, who's
not Turkey.
I don't think they're up there. Saudi Arabia, I mean, because China's at 250 million, Saudi Arabia and Russia are around 60 million USD equivalent.
So, what was your disagreement with Lapis over the Yugoslav wars?
Well, I was talking about, well, the thing is actually, I think she changed tune pretty fast, but when we were talking about intervention in Kosovo, I was talking about the potential ethnic cleansing of Kosovans, and earlier in 1995, the attempted cleansing of Muslim Bosniaks. And she was I felt like she was skeptical. What she said was, she said, imagine actually believing this, with reference to me saying they were trying to create Greater Serbia and have the entire Balkans be just Serbia, unified. But that's very much what Serbia was trying to do. What Milosevic was trying to create in Yugoslavia was not keeping the federation together, but keeping Montenegro, Kosovo, which were kind of created at that point, Bosnia and Croatia. He was trying to create a Serbian unity within all of that. And if the USA had not intervened, it very likely would have happened. We did see a genocide. A genocide unfolded. At least 8,000 Muslim Bosniaks died at Srebrenica.
So she was just skeptical of that, like skeptical of.
I'd have to go. I don't think I'm go that far back in the DMs, because this was about December.
Like, what did she like?
What I specifically remember is I said that Greater Serbia was Milosevic's attempt, and if the USA did not stop them, there would have been a widespread ethnic cleansing. And she said, imagine actually believing this. And I was kind of stunned, and I actually kind of went off on her, and S-Man kind of intervened, deciding to calm down, because that's what was happening in Kosovo at the time. There was resistance, but there was an ethnic cleansing going on in Kosovo and in Bosnia. And
Okay.
that was a very complicated war.
Okay, I understand that. I understand. So, yeah.
Sorry.
I don't.
You go.
Had a few debates, but I don't like arguing with her that much. But it's more or less knowing her. She probably think about the left in general. They have a skepticism of hierarchy. I barely have any skepticism of hierarchy, so they more inclined to believe in the worst case scenario, and though it also attributes the worst possible motivation ever. This includes Noam Chomsky, Karl Marx, and all those whole lines of thinkers.
Especially with hierarchy, I think I agree with you. I don't understand how people say it's a social construct that. I mean, there are some socially constructed hierarchies, but it seems like even in nature, we see those develop. It's not like some things only humans could do, and that's some weird perversion of our nature. I never got it.
But if I was a materialist, I'll call you idealist. I'm not. I hate that debate. This gets annoying.
Yeah. Did you know Owen McDonald?
Yeah, I talked to him once. Yeah, what's he's about?
Yeah, no, we've had arguments way back about this kind of stuff too.
Yeah, skepticism, hierarchy, but honestly, I like to corner. I want to corner them on like specifically policy prescription and how to remedy this, because like when people are somewhat new to politics or more so just focus on more social issues and think more abstractly, but I like to see them think. I like to see how can they apply this through policy implementation, like what their main arguments are, like through through essentially your language here. You're some of a policy monk, so
Um, I don't know if I'd say that. I I mean, I there's some like economics I'm more of a policy wonk, but a few years back I was at the OIL, which is the Oklahoma Intercollegiate Legislature, and what you have to do there is you have to write mock bills, present them, and go through the entire process as if it were actually the Oklahoma State Senate and Oklahoma State House, and I hated it. Oh my god, I hated writing the bills. I hated the grammar and the structure of everything, how you had to propose things with the language. Um, it oh, I'm not going to politics just because. I mean, it was a good experience to learn, but it's going on my resume. But Jesus Christ, that was painful.
wait. Speaking of that, am I a bad writer? Or, I don't know.
I mean, dude, I I have spoken to people who I mean, who go to that kind of thing, and there are some people who can write me halfway to hell. They're far more articulate. They grammatically they'll make far fewer errors than I will. But then they dance around an issue. Like if you ever read Noam Chomsky, he is
Yeah,
an amazing linguist. He has a very strong control of the English language, and whenever he talks, it gives the impression of being articulate without saying very much at all. He had one discussion with George Monbiot about his genocide. He wrote a book. He wrote a foreword for a book that had genocide denial about Rwanda and Bosnia. And so George Monbiot sent him some emails asking him about the foreword and saying, "What's up with this? We're both leftists. Why'd you write this?" And Noam Chomsky, all of his responses on Google, if you type George Monbiot, Noam Chomsky correspondence, you'll find it. It's one of the top 2 or 3 results. I've read through it, his responses, 3 or 4 times now, talking, discussing with other people, and it's still difficult to understand what he's saying. And as far as people who are qualified to write and speak in the English language, there's almost no one higher than him in terms of like he has a PhD in some stuff, but he makes he's infuriating to try to understand what he's saying some of the time.
I only read one Noam Chomsky book, and it was called "Who Rules the World." Huh? It's he's. I didn't find it impressive.
I mean, I actually think I understood Hegel easier than Noam Chomsky, which was
That's saying a lot.
that's saying a lot.
But am I a bad writer, or
Oh, no. I'd say if anything, you whenever you write, you get very caught up in details. Like you have a ton of run-on sentences, which can be fine in some writing styles, but it's like you have very little time to say a whole bunch of stuff. That's it. Whenever I read what you write, that's kind of the impression I get.
Oh,
Yeah. Which I mean, just you can try something longer form. That might solve all your problems, but that's just the impression I get.
oh. Let's see. It's 10:38, and we've been streaming about one.
Oh wow.
So yeah, hoping anyone's gonna join.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you send anyone to the link?
Yeah, I sent Naf and I sent Robin a link, but neither of them. I don't think they're
Send
online.
S-Man the link.
Sure, 1 second here. Just the URL.
Yeah.
I sent from the group chat. Let me just copy that one.
So weird. They got lives. It's interesting how they actually have lives.
Yeah, it's terrible. Well, I have no morning classes for the first time in a while tomorrow. And so I was thinking, because remember I was going to do this stream, I was looking through my schedule, but some of them actually got canceled, so it worked out pretty well.
Hey. Also, might send my friend list.
Oh, S-Man just immediately said okay. I'll be coming in here in a sec. Yeah, but I talked about this earlier, but it's been absolutely storming in Oklahoma recently. And the roads were terrible. And of course, Oklahoman drivers, if you ever want to get in a car accident and then have someone else angrily yell at you after they wreck into you, go to Oklahoma. Oh man, they are terrible. And the roads are even worse. We have potholes that put all their states to shame. There's no funding, there's no taxes, so it's all crap. We've driven on Colorado roads up mountains that had fewer rocks, mountainous terrain. You had to go 4-wheel drive on the highways. And that is what I had to go through for 45 minutes trying to get home. Oh, with all the streetlights out, of course, because why would you have consistent power? I mean, who would even want that?
Some poor child in Nigeria.
Nah, no. Well, see, we're only, the richest country ever to exist. That's it. What else do we have?
Let's see.
Well, S-Man might not be joining us. Huh. Oh.
So
only you, Blue.
There he is.
So who are you again?
Nobody knows.
Why your voice deeper?
I don't fucking know. Puberty. I don't. Anyway.
Also, don't curse on my stream.
How dare you, S-Man?
Okay, fine. I will respect. I will respect.
I mean, serious. Don't curse on my stream.
Okay.
This is a Christian Minecraft server stream.
Don't
I just was gonna steal that, but anyway. How's everyone's week going?
Terrible.
Mood.
Sorry, yeah.
Some dude clipped the mirror off of my car, so there goes my paycheck for the week. But anyway, that's, I guess, what I get for having faith in humanity, for people not going too fast down the damn street. Excuse me, the darn street.
The darn street.
And yeah, the darn street, and hitting the mirror off the car.
Wait,
so
do you not have insurance? S-Man. You not have insurance?
I don't yet, so I don't drive it very much. But
terrible.
Anyway,
I'm reporting you to the police. The Mormon police.
I mean, I'm already wanted by the Mormon police for not being a Mormon, so this isn't going to make much of a difference.
You're going to come to your house and pray for you.
I like the Mormon church. They're great people.
Some of them are Chads and Patriots, and some of them are just.
Man, it's amazing, like what they did with that. It's amazing what they did with Utah.
Yes. Some of them are Chads and Patriots. Some of them are Gretchens, Beckys, and Andrews.
I like the Mormon church. I like the Catholic Church too. Like they're great. They're great institutions.
I generally cannot care less about them, so I really do not worry about them. The only time I do is if they're caught being total hypocrites. There was a Mormon, really socially conservative state legislator who resigned after he was caught being with a prostitute or something. I was laughing out loud because whenever I hear a really moral puritanical person like PJW, because this guy reminded me of him because of not because of sounding British or anything, but just because of the being a prude. I just laughed because I thought, well, I wouldn't be surprised if these people who are these total prudes are just repressing stuff. It really just seems like they would be the type of people to do that.
So let's see.
Blue. Why was the street lights so awful in Yeehaw country?
Country. Well, we have storms here, and there have been a few power outages. And for the first half of the stream, I was on my phone's Wi-Fi hotspot streaming this.
So let's see. The first hour, we talk about Allende, Chile quite thoroughly, actually. Looking back on it. What's your take on Allende?
Me?
Yes.
Allende was. I think he would have deserved to have himself removed from power. I would have preferred people do it via the ballot box rather than a violent overthrow. But People have their weird preferences. So,
But do you think the U.S. have any involvement with the coup d'état itself?
I would say that I'm not certain at this point. I would just say that they more or less just look the other way. But at this point, I'm more of the attitude that at this point it doesn't make that much of a difference. It's still um it's still just a sign of problems that have happened for not Latin America, South America, and well, not our problems, but yeah. So what's your guys' takes on Vladimir Putin and Russia?
Wait, who's that?
Vladimir Putin, for those who don't know, which how you
No,
don't, I don't know, but he is the president of Russia,
Oh,
and
really?
yeah,
like,
I know. I when I first heard he was the president of Russia, I was like, whoa!
Yes.
I thought you
wait,
could see Russia from your house from there. You know what I'm saying? But
wait,
anyway,
who's Vladimir Putin?
how do you not, bruh? For a guy who retweets a ton of foreign policy posts, I'm surprised. If you're trolling, this is a good troll. But
like
anyway,
who is he? Like, has he been the president since like 2006? And was he like the result of the failure of Boris Yeltsin
yeah,
policies? And
yeah,
so
and
who is he? Like, who is this man? Is he the one that is like responsible for territorial aggression over Crimea and currently engaged in a war with Ukraine? And like,
yeah, pretty much.
I don't know. I don't know who he is though. Like, who is this man?
Who are any of us really? Who's to say?
Yeah, but anyway,
I think you're Batman. Like, Blue, you're Batman. You're clearly Bruce Wayne, while S-Man is Captain America.
You know what? We're going with that.
Oh shit! I'm Christian Bale in this metaphor.
Anyway, so Blue, just a question while we're here. What's your since you're part of the Yang Gang, would you say you're happy with your boy Andrew Yang? Do you think he would be good militarily, or in terms of diplomacy and stuff, foreign policy?
Well, first of all, I've gone on and off the Yang Gang train for 5 or 6 times now. I'm officially off it right now. That'll probably change by next week. Yeah. Well, I mean, he says some good things, then he's absolutely terrible. But foreign policy, before I first started listening to him, he was talking Tulsi Gabbard in the Joe Rogan podcast. He's more isolationist. But he had a CFR interview where he was pretty much one of the more moderate foreign policy actors. Very similar to Joe Biden or Buttigieg in terms of we need to probably get out of Afghanistan, but we can't just do a full withdrawal and leave a vacuum. One of the big questions I had was him on the Kurds, and he seems to be supportive now. So foreign policy, I'm less worried about. I was very surprised because that was my biggest criticism of him before. But what annoys me now is that the supporters on automation are starting to get less and less coherent. And I'm an automation hawk. I constantly argue with neolibs online all the time about how it's worrying, but it's annoying how they have these memes like, we know the math, we have the data. And
they have facts and logic, guys. Look over there.
They shitpost, and they don't actually read any economic studies on automation at all.
That implies that they read.
Like, who reads anymore, man? Like, man. Like, come on, man. Like, do you just want to we're Neil? It was like you just want to smoke some dope and just have a good time. Like, let's ride this train, man.
I listened to a remix of Hillary Clinton laughing, and I think I can tell you what neoliberalism sounds like, and it's not a good song.
So that's, man. How you feel about hippies?
Sometimes they're okay people. Sometimes they don't send their best.
So how you feel about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Wait, what the hell? Excuse me. Repeat that. Like,
how you feel about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I genuinely don't know. I spend like 0 seconds thinking about it.
So
Usually,
you haven't seen the movie, have you?
nope. I haven't even heard of it until you brought it up like 20 seconds ago.
So, okay.
But generally with hippies, I just have the attitude that they exist. We all exist. Some groups don't send their best, and some do. And I don't know. I just generally think that that they're okay. Like as long as they're not degenerate pieces of garbage, then they're okay with me. But the moment they start like retweeting anime is when they clearly don't have rights.
Whoa.
Oh wait, they're hip.
I'm joking, Blue, but God.
Whoa. Stop it.
Okay. Look, I'm okay. You know what? Weebs don't have rights. Okay, weebs are the reason why this country is in the state it is. No, I'm kidding. Weebs are weird people, but I generally do not care unless they get horny on the timeline, and then I'm going to be tweeting a video at them where it's Trump edited to say what the hell is wrong with you? You think anyone wants to hear about that? And then other stuff. It's whoever does those deep fakes. God bless you, because I mean that takes some genuine editing. It's like Blue-esque material.
Oh no, I can't do those. Those require actual skill. Tracking 20 tracks that requires not having a life and plenty of time, which I do not have and do have, respectively. But for deep fakes, I want to learn how to make those, but I would abuse them and hurt people.
If I could do deep fakes, I would just make the best memes out of the poor bastards chat. I would just,
Wait,
I would have. What?
That's still a thing.
Yeah, it's whether you like it or not, it's still a thing. It's just how it is. I'd probably just have some members just say some like things they've said before, but like splice it up. Like,
Wait, should I bring Timothy on here?
I have zero clue who Timothy is.
Should I bring
So,
Humane Mind on here?
no, no, we don't have a good history with him. So I if you want to bring him on, fine, but just let me know when you sent the link to him so I can dip because that guy is just a total joke. So
I'm trying to bring more people in here.
That's fine, but I'm sorry, Blue. I think you can agree with me. When you hear MAGA tard and ANCAP in the same sentence, we already can tell that there's some things that are just not going to add up, no matter whether you like it or not.
Hello, Monsieur. Hello, Monsieur Bernard. How are you doing tonight?
I was about to go to sleep, so.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. What did you bring me into?
To this stream, we were talking about a rather boring and dry topic, and I'm trying to bring some levity to the stream, and you're like the funniest guy I know.
All right. So, what's the topic we're talking about here?
We're talking about something, but as to what that is,
the topic was about Chile for a moment, and Vietnam, and Kissinger, and the Cold War. Then we end up talking about international relations for a bit, geopolitics, and sort of just evolve from there. And me ended up mentioning that I hate hippies. So
Volt, why are you stuck in the 1970s? That's the real question then. That's the profound question here.
I second that question.
Wait, why I'm stuck in the 1970s?
Yeah, all these things you're interested in, you keep talking about. I'll go back to the 1970s. That's like a weird fixation there.
Yeah, that's true.
Everything I believe everything that went wrong about society happened in the 1970s. Is that fair?
I'd say that's
Well, I thought you loved Nixon though. You're always talking about Nixon favorably.
He would turn his Twitter account into a Nixon Stan account if he could get away with it.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I mean, that'd be some pretty hard work.
I was about to say like turn your account into a Nixon Stan account. No, that just takes like a few minutes. But yeah,
no, the actual posting would take some work.
Oh well, yeah.
So, why yes that I'm fixated on the 70s lately.
I mean,
it's not lately, but it just popped up in the conversation. It just felt like the moment was there to go that way.
Oh. So how you been?
I saw the One Piece movie that's out in a limited release in theaters.
Oh, what do you think of it?
It's fun. I mean, it's One Piece. It's not a really deep shonen series, and there's a MacGuffin, but of course, Monkey D. Luffy destroys the MacGuffin because it would ruin the plot of the show if he actually had the MacGuffin that skipped him forward, and also it would ruin his moral character arc by having him take a shortcut to achieve his important goals.
Yeah, that sounds like typical shonen manga stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, Blue, are you a fan of One Piece?
Never seen it. So
And you call Ant-Man, you call him a weeb? What's wrong with you?
yeah, I'm a mild weeb.
Yeah,
Okay,
but
he's a moderate weeb. He's not an extremist, but I would say comfortably that Blue seems like the type of guy who would go in the extremist territory of the weeb stuff.
It would depend on the anime, but yeah.
I mean, a lot of the weeb Americans have kind of turned away from One Piece because of the whole 4 kids scenario.
Wait, what does that mean?
Basically, it was a really terrible dubbing company that did a lot of awful things and turned off a lot of anime fans.
Oh, that.
I have no idea what you're referring to, but I'm just
4 Kids. Wait, you don't remember 4 Kids? That TV show network?
I've never heard of it.
You make me believe you're not a 2000 kid.
Boy, I generally do not pay attention to anime.
He lives in Utah, so they're all 10 years behind there. In Oklahoma, we're 5 years behind, but they're.
I have been to places like California, Illinois, and stuff.
So you're from Oklahoma. How did you feel about the shout out you were getting in the Watchmen TV series?
Oh, well, I'm from Tulsa, and I haven't seen it yet. I'm planning on watching it probably tomorrow, but the trailer.
The fact that they make the Tulsa race riot a central plot point of the first episode just felt extremely weird.
Wait. Why are they doing that?
Wait, when is this one set? This is set in modern day, right?
Yes, but they do a flashback to the Tulsa race riot.
So, is Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen series? This series?
No, this is a sequel that has a lot of connections to the comic book, and it's a sequel to the comic book, not a sequel to the movie. But it has references, but the references don't serve the same points in the story, and they're not connected to the same story architecture, so it's just noise. It's just a lot of noise that kind of distracts you from how there's nothing actually going on, because they replaced atomic bombs as the central existential threat with police brutality and oppression of black people.
Wait, so it sounds like it's a gigantic waste of time and money. Thanks for letting me know.
Wait, I'm so entirely confused about how they, because the Tulsa race riot we talked about in history class, I guess, but how is it a central theme? Did something happen with relation to it?
Yes, because that connects to how Tulsa in this universe works.
Oh,
but what made the Watchmen so great in the first place, though, is because it dealt with complex issues with a really nuanced approach with it.
It gave each character their kind of own philosophical realm, like you had a utilitarian for God, I'm missing his name. It's something Ozymandias. You had the nihilist of Dr. Manhattan. You had the deontology of Rorschach, and then Owl Guy. I forget his name, but that guy is the value ethics.
And honestly, I like Dr. Manhattan, and I want to be him in that story.
Dr. Manhattan.
Come on, the guy lives on Mars.
Now what they're doing though with him in the sequel, its comic book series is actually interesting.
What?
He causes alterations to the mainstream DC universe, and he realizes he's actually the bad guy in all these stories.
Oh.
And he can't see anything past his confrontation with Superman. So he wants to figure out what the heck's that's all about.
He dies. Well, maybe.
So actually, that's pretty interesting. So Dr. Manhattan and Nowhere All Time need to figure out what is a good way to get out of that situation.
Eh?
That's it.
Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, it's gonna work now.
Also, if you want to see a simulation of the Holocaust, I strongly recommend Maleficent 2,
Oh
where they
boy.
gas
Oh
where,
boy.
where they gas the fairies to kill them all.
Well,
Oh my god.
that went somewhere. That went somewhere indeed. Are you good, Voltaire? You good?
This is the sort of content Volt brought me in here to bring for the stream. Also, they have a sequence where they basically do like a World War One gassing of another group of fairies, like in a battle sequence.
They actually gas fairies.
Yeah.
Can they throw Bambi in there?
No. They
Yeah.
made a chemical weapon using dead fairy corpses and iron.
Oh.
So wait, so are you telling me I should see this movie or no?
No, it's terrible.
Why do I feel like Voltaire is going to go see that movie immediately?
Probably not.
And let's see. Also, it's a movie where they did something I wasn't expecting. They actually made the female character the bad guy. Not Maleficent, because the movie's called Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, so of course she's not going to be evil in the movie. No, they made another major female character the bad guy.
Who?
The daughter, the mother of the prince.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and they have a big fight because the fairies didn't give her people food when they needed it, so she wants to exterminate all the fairies now.
Well, that also went somewhere.
Because that's that's totally a thing that happens in a realistic worldview.
Jesus, Voltaire, don't die.
Oh my god.
But like the prince and Aurora are like, hey, let's get married and cause a union between our kingdoms to prevent war. And the prince is like, yeah, that's great. Let me tell my dad. And his dad's like, yeah, let's have peace and not have a major conflict. But like his wife is like, no, I'm going to stab you so that it causes a chaotic event, so everybody justifies my directing a war of extermination.
Sounds like great storytelling.
All right.
It's not, though. It's not.
So that took a quick turn to the fairy Holocaust, but okay.
Yeah.
Any other terrible movies you've seen this week?
The Addams Family movie is really depressing.
What happened there?
Well, the people who produced the Addams Family movie didn't understand the original cartoons, what they were about, or the TV show from the 60s or whatever it was and what it's about. So they take the Addamses who are based around deviance and abnormality in a world where deviance and abnormality don't actually exist, so they're just kind of kitschy. And then they have them go into a world where everything's driven by social media and home improvement television. So it's all about two different societies united by their desire for conformity, but they desire to conform for different reasons. And it's just like really boring and tedious. And all the voice acting's terrible.
Yeah,
perfect storm.
So are you gonna see that Pigeon movie with Will Smith that's coming?
Hell no. That looks like it's hot garbage.
Oh man.
So did you hear how terrible the new Star Wars movie is going to be?
Yes. What's going on there?
Well, apparently the trailer has numerous links in it that confirm the leaks that have horrible things about it, like how Rey's going to go into.
Whoa. Spoilers. Turn it off now. Okay, now.
Well, no. I mean, these are leaks, so we
I know,
can't
but I'm not guaranteeing
spoilers.
people have not seen them.
Yeah. So yeah, like how Rey's going to bury Luke, Leia, and Han on Tatooine and say she's Rey Skywalker.
Oh god.
And how they're going to retcon all sorts of stuff from The Last Jedi.
The thing is, I've heard rumors that like they're gonna have Ahsoka Tano make an appearance, like a Force projection.
Now that has not yet been confirmed by anything, but that is one of the leaks.
Well, some of the pictures got DMCA'd, right? Disney actually claimed the photos as their own.
Yeah,
confirming the leaks.
Yeah.
So
Let me pull up the Google document file that I have here. Major spoilers. Enter at your own risk. May the force be with you.
Wait, Larry, can I ask you one thing? How does it feel to see all your favorite franchises burning
It feels
to the
great.
ground?
It feels great.
Yeah, I love it.
So, all right, Act 1, the film begins with a shot of a control tower rising from the ground on the planet of Exegol. Now, Exegol is the planet where the Emperor is, and it's basically been confirmed in the trailers that Exegol is actually happening. The control tower begins transmitting a signal. Some rumbling below the surface of the planet begins as Star Destroyers of the Sith fleet break through the dark, rocky surface of the
Can you
planet
screen share
and
this?
rise into the air. Give me a second. Let me get this Google document here. Post this over here in the chat so you guys can hook this up with a screen share.
Okay, let me give it a shot. It needs to be Friday, like not just tomorrow, but now.
Supreme Leader Kylo Ren has been aware of a dark power behind his predecessor and former Master Snoke. Kylo has been spending time as the leader of the First Order with the purpose of locating this power. Generals Hux and Pride. Now, some people have made a joke that his name's going to be White Pride, but that is fake news. That is fake news. That's not real. That would be hilarious, though.
It is fake news, Larry. You don't have to worry about it. It is totally not true. I'm kidding. Go on.
Have been following Kylo around on his quest and are beginning to get very frustrated with what they see as a fool's errand. They see this as a waste of the First Order's time and resources. When we catch up with the villains of our story, Kylo is leading an assault on the planet with the purpose of finding Darth Vader's Wayfinder device. The device reveals the coordinates within the unknown regions, and Kylo is confident that this will reveal the source of Snoke's power. Kylo slaughters his way through the natives. Kylo walks towards a castle tower and finds the Wayfinder in a chest. Prior to getting the Wayfinder, Kylo has PTSD flashbacks to Luke and Han. Kylo then hears Palpatine's voice calling Kylo to come to him. Meanwhile, on Ajin Kloss, aka not Endor or not Kashyyyk, because why have a forest planet that's entirely new and serves no purpose other than to be not Endor or not Kashyyyk? Leia has picked up where her brother left off and has been helping Rey learn the ways of the Jedi. Rey is first seen doing some meditative mental force training, but is struggling with it.
Trains? Wow,
Yes,
that's
but
nothing new.
she's training with a dead person, though.
Okay, that's helpful.
In frustration, she asks Leia if she could do a physical training course instead. It appears that Rey has more physical fortitude than she has mental strength. But she also has a lot of anger in her. In her anger,
that's really unoriginal.
In her anger, she cuts down a tree which falls on BB-8 and damages him. After her training,
fucking kills BB-8.
She does.
No.
But she damages him, not kills him.
Okay.
After her training, she tries to communicate with Luke, asking him to appear to her, but nothing happens. Rey gives her lightsaber to Leia, and no Google document, feeling that she's undeserving of it. Kylo Ren and his knights are at the dark location together. The castle is owned by this ape man, who must agree to help Kylo fix his mask and to activate the Wayfinder. First, they must reforge the mask, and then they'll be ready to continue on their quest. There was ash involved outside, which means it must be Mustafar. Kylo's mask is reforged, and the Knights of Ren stalk around the work being done. After obtaining Vader's device, Kylo travels to the planet specified by the Wayfarer, takes him to the unknown regions in a dead planet on a flat black rock named Exegol. Kylo lands outside a giant cube floating just above the ground and begins walking towards it. Kylo walks between the cube and the ground, and once he reaches the center, he discovers an elevator leading down below the planet's surface. He follows the lift down as Kylo descends. He passes by giant statues and finds an old man near death and lying in bed and being treated by cloaked aides. The old man identifies himself as Darth Sidious. Kylo threatens Palpatine with his lightsaber after making his way over to him. Curt words are apparently traded back and forth between the two of them. Palpatine does not refute that he died on the Death Star when challenged, but responds in a "yet here I am" sort of way. The scene goes on to have Palpatine mocking Kylo's "let the past die" mindset and talks about how the past is the key to the future. After his defeated Endor, he left the known galaxy and traveled to the unknown regions to rebuild his empire. Even though that's not what happened in the video games, which you guys say is canon, Disney.
Wait,
Palpatine ordered.
this seems to be really poorly organized and thought out.
Yes, Palpatine
What?
orders. Yep,
How?
Palpatine orders Kylo to bring Rey to him. Palpatine also reveals that he has been amassing an armada of Star Destroyers equipped with Death Star technology, each one capable of destroying a planet on its own. General Hux and White Pride are tasked with rounding up children in large numbers to train and staff his armada. Palpatine speaks of the Sith fleet being years in the making, and the Empire needs a leader to rule it. Palpatine also apparently talks to Kylo about Rey's lineage during the conversation. We pick up with Finn and Poe on the Millennium Falcon, accompanied by a handful of unfamiliar alien characters, traveling to an icy asteroid base to meet a First Order informant. The informant is an alien acting as a middleman between a First Order mole and our heroes. The context name is Bulio. Finn and Poe play holochess with Chewie on the Falcon. Because you remember when they did that in the other two movies? Do you remember that, guys?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that. That was the best scene of all time.
Bulio gives him some sort of data encoder with information on it. The First Order arrives and begins attacking the base. Pew, 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 pew. The assault causes our heroes, should say causes our heroes or something like that, I don't know, to make a hasty exit by light skipping away. A lightspeed skip involves making the jump to lightspeed without plotting a course or a predetermined destination. In other words, suicide. The Falcon makes a handful of these springs skips to throw the First Order off their trail. But as a result, they are forced to deal with the consequences of such a risky maneuver. After surviving the dangers of light springing, our heroes plot a course to the secret resistant jungle base on Ajin Kloss, aka not Kashyyyk.
Wait. Why not go to Yarvin?
Gavin, because that's in Imperial controlled space.
But
Finn and,
that seems to be lazy though. Lazy.
it is. Finn and Poe return to the Resistance base bearing the knowledge obtained from their encounter with the First Order informant. Rey yells at Poe for damaging the Falcon, while lightspeed skipping and Poe yells at Rey for damaging BB-8.
Wow, that's
conflict. Yeah, character building. I'm gonna kill myself.
The Resistance reviews the information gleaned from the data, and accordingly, they find out the Sith fleet and Palpatine's return. Cloning is once again discussed as a possibility, but it's not confirmed or denied here either. Snoke is apparently dismissed as a pawn working for Palpatine, as he's plotted his way back to power for the unknown regions. Finn apparently voices concern over the children that will need to be kidnapped, as he was in order to staff the fleet on this scale.
wait. Will they?
Bulio's head is apparently thrown onto the table. Kylo states to the room that he knows that there has been a spy within the First Order. Kylo seems to be okay with this because it will draw Rey out of hiding. One officer suggests that the Sith fleet cannot be trusted, and this officer is subsequently choked and shoved into the ceiling and dropped to the floor by Kylo Ren.
Hey, just like that time Darth Vader did that because
He
he
never
had
did
no
that.
new.
Except he never flung them into the roof. That makes it differenter.
Oh, that's new. That's subverted my expectations. I'm now surprised, and we'll give him my name.
Wait, when Darth Vader chokes someone, it's more like a demonstration of power and failure, while he seems to be losing his temper like a child.
Yeah.
Wait. Rogue One. Darth Vader gets him. Darth Vader does that at the end.
But that's different though.
Yeah.
That's the different context and scene. He's actually trying to get something a goal.
And
that's
Leia dispatches Poe and Finn along with Rey, Chewbacca, BB-8, and the C-3PO to Pisana, aka not Tatooine and also not Jakku desert planet. Leia's last words to Rey are, "Tell me when you get back." When our heroes arrive on the planet, they discover giant festivals going on. What they thought would be an easy mission has now turned into a much more complicated affair. They attempt to lay low and blend in. Unsurprised, Chewbacca, struggling with blending in because it's very difficult to hide 7-foot-tall Wookiees from prying eyes. Rey encounters a child in the crowd who takes a liking to her, presenting her with a handmade necklace as a gift. She's asked her name and she responds Rey. When asked her family name, she replies that she does not have one. At that moment, Kylo establishes a connection to Rey through their bond. He antagonizes her about her parents leaving and selling her, telling her that she feels all alone. There's nobody who understands her except him. Kylo being a total pickup artist and solidly negging that bitch Rey. Their conversation ends with Kylo grabbing the necklace from around Rey's neck. Kylo analyzes the necklace on his Star Destroyer and finds out where it's from. Rey travels through the crowds to warn her friends of the First Order's knowledge of where she is when the First Order stormtroopers show up and ambush them. They are saved by someone in the crowd who escorts them to a safe area. It's Lando Calrissian! Greetings and introductions are exchanged. Lando tells them of a danger that may help them find what they seek. Many years prior, Lando and Luke went in search of a Sith loyalist named Uchi. Luke and Lando's quest was for Sith relics and Uchi. The dagger wasn't part of their search, and it doesn't come into play until later. Lando tells of how he and Luke had been searching the galaxy for Sith artifacts and spent some time tracking down Uchi due to the knowledge of the Wayfinders. This eventually led him to Pisana and finding his ship, but no Uchi. There's no Uchi. Tracked Uchi to Pisana when the trail went cold. When they met, the question of why he never left the planet after searching for Uchi ended. Lando tells the team that he had a young child at the time of his and Luke's quest. While they were searching for Uchi, the First Order stole his child. After having failed to protect his children from the First Order, Lando and Luke parted ways, and he stayed on Pisana ever since.
So, is this child going to turn out to be Finn?
Let's find out together.
Oh, no.
And Lando believes that the First Order has a goal of turning the children of the heroes of the rebellion into their own enemies as a form of revenge. This story strikes a chord with Finn, having been stolen from his own family at an incredibly young age as well. The sound of the First Order ties can be heard, and apparently Lando is the one to deliver the "I have a bad feeling about this" line, just like in the movies before. In the Revenge of the Skywalkers, Lando points in the direction of the last known coordinate of Uchi's ship, where the trail went cold all those years ago. Wishes them luck in succeeding where he failed all those years ago. Our heroes follow the trail, pointing out to them the fleeing area of speeders. They're chased into the desert by the First Order with the Knights of Ren, finally being involved in one of these movies. Further behind them, who arrive on Pisana, it's at this point that the Falcon is located and gets killed. Oh wait, no. It's located and detained by the First Order. The speeder chase ends with the First Order troopers getting killed, and eventually they happen upon Uchi's ship, which is going to be the new Falcon. So we're not going to use the iconic ship that you like. We're going to use a totally different one because we're original, guys. We're totally original. When Rey sees the ship, it triggers some memories. It's the same ship that we see leaving Jakku in Rey's vision from The Force Awakens. Oh, wow. Kylo lied to her, you guys. Before the implications of this could sink in, the ground beneath them gives out and the crew gets sucked below the surface of the sand. They find themselves in a series of underground tunnels where they discover the remains of Uchi and a dagger. It is discovered that Uchi was not just a Sith loyalist, but a Sith assassin. Rey feels a strong connection to this weapon because she's actually a Sith, but can't quite articulate it.
Wait, what? I'm confused now.
The way Rey acts in all these movies, she's actually a Sith. That's how she's being written.
So she's not. So why she act like she's a Jedi then?
She doesn't.
I mean, why does the movie resent tricks us to believe that she is a Jedi?
Because they don't want you to believe that Jedi and Sith are significant, because that way they can dilute the brand that Lucas created and make their own brand.
There seems to be despite everything.
Wait. We're only 8 of 27 pages in.
Oh no.
They find the dagger among the Reys, and Rey recalls that it was tradition for Sith assassins to inscribe secrets on them, because that's never been a thing before, but it is now, so it totally always was a thing. The dagger has writing on it in a language that nobody can identify. It's handed over to 3PO, who identifies the writing as a Sith language, but he reveals that he is unable to translate the writing due to restrictions in his programming. C-3PO can actually read it. He knows what it says and tells the Resistance crew that it reveals the location to a wayfinder, but his programming forbids him from providing a literal translation of the text. Chewbacca takes possession of the dagger, and the group's attention turns to finding a way out of the caves. During the escapes, the team runs into a giant, very aggressive sandworm, just like in the other movies.
So wait. So C-3PO know what it says, but it's programming since when? Since when?
Well, I mean, he knows a whole bunch of languages.
But
But
since
the thing is, he's able to provide them with the information, just not a literal translation, which really isn't actually a difficulty then. In
So-
displaying a previously unknown power, Rey is able to heal the sandworm, who is injured, saving the worm and providing the heroes the chance they need to escape. Once the crew exits the cave system, they see a First Order Star Destroyer in the sky and know that Kylo Ren has found them. Once they realize this, they correctly reason the First Order would have already found the Falcon, making that plan of escape impossible. In an act of desperation, the crew boards Uchi's ship, and they attempt to get it working. Rey senses that Kylo is coming for her, so she takes off on her own to confront him and buy her friend some time. While Kylo and Rey are engaged, the Knights of Ren and the First Order head for Uchi's ship and our heroes. Chewbacca splits off with the crew and attempts to delay the Knights, but is captured. The dagger is taken from him, and he boards a First Order prison transport. Rey and Kylo both notice Chewbacca being taken captive and being brought to a transport ship. During their confrontation, as the ship takes off, Rey shifts her attention from Kylo to her captured friend, even though she's never treated him like a friend in any of these movies.
So, do you remember in Legends where Chewbacca actually died instead of Han Solo?
Yeah.
Maybe they should have done that in this movie.
Yeah. As the ship takes off, Rey shifts her attention from Kylo to the captured friend and begins to use the Force to stop the transport and pull it back to the ground. Kylo attempts to counteract this by pushing the ship away. Control of the ship becomes a battle between Kylo and Rey, much like their battles for Anakin's lightsaber in The Last Jedi, battles that Rey has consistently won in all of these movies.
And also, Kylo performed badly at it.
Yep. Kylo begins to gain the upper hand, which angers Rey. In her frustration, lightning shoots from her hand because she's a Sith. She's always been a Sith in these movies, destroying the transport ship and killing all the passengers because she's evil. Devastated by what she just did, Rey collapses. While all this is transpiring, Poe, Finn, 3PO, and BB-8 get Uchi's ship in the air just in time to pick up the distraught Rey. With no Lando, no Falcon, no dagger, no Chewbacca, our heroes limp away from the desert planet. They find out that they do not have possession of the dagger because Chewbacca had it, but all is not lost because 3PO has its message stored in his memory. Plan to hack 3PO's programming restrictions is formed, and they set course to Kijimi, which is a totally different planet. BB-8 and finds and reboots the droid D-O, aka a lamp on a wheel, on Uchi's ship.
So where's R2-D2?
Well, he's there. He's just not doing anything. That's Act 1 of this movie.
Will he do something later in the movie?
We'll find out.
Let's stop there for now. Let's hold up. So Rey murders a bunch of people. I got that part, right?
Yes.
Okay.
With Force lightning.
Movie.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. I mean, I remember they had leaks about Force Awakens, and the Force Awakens leaks were pretty close. If these leaks are anywhere near accurate, my God, man, it's gonna.
It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. There's a actual potential this movie could bomb.
Oh man, that would be the very first Star Wars movie that actually.
No, Solo bombed.
Yeah, Solo lost money.
But Solo was like a side project movie, so that doesn't really count. This will be the first main movie to bomb if that happens.
The thing is, The Last Jedi was a bad movie, but it had a structure. It
No,
very
it
clearly
didn't.
had different
Well,
acts.
it
No,
had a
had.
bad structure. It had a bad structure, but it had one.
Yeah, it had one. I mean, it was a
It
terrible
just
movie,
it just
but
didn't make any sense for the movie it was trying to be. But it had a structure.
it had Act 1, 2, and 3. It knew this. I mean, we're at the end of Act 2, and I kind of
No,
felt
no,
like
no, 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 no. We're at the end of
we're at
Act
the
One,
beginning of
buddy.
Act 2. We're
We
at
we
the
haven't
beginning
even
of Act.
started to back to Act Two. No, 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 no. It's so much worse than that.
Oh my God.
No, hey, I'm kind of excited for the TV series that Star Wars. Like, I'm really excited for
Yeah,
Obi-Wan. Like, that
and the
seems to
Yeah,
be
movie
no,
it.
I'm
looks good. So Act Two, the heroes of the Resistance make their way to the snow-dusted planet of Kijimi to execute their plan to discover the secrets of the dagger held. The Resistance team arrives on the planet and bump into Zori Bliss and her crew. She reveals that Poe has a colorful past, once functioned as a spice runner, and still owes her money. What a scam! A quick skirmish occurs where Rey gets the upper hand, and Zori agrees to bring them to Babu Frick to hack 3BO's programming to read the Sith language on the dagger. There's an alley on Kijimi, and Babu Frick brings them through his back alley and little bar in order to get to the droid ship. There's a quick cut at this point back to Kylo, where we find out that the Knights of Ren have tracked the Resistance back to Kijimi. Frick tells everyone that he can unlock the messages read, but in doing so, C-3PO's memories will be wiped. Oh no.
Like, his memory's been wiped before, so who cares?
Well, wait. Still reeling from the loss of Chewbacca, the heroes argue about finding another way to get the job done. But in an act of self-sacrifice, C-3PO voluntarily consents to the modifications, knowing that, for all intents and purposes, the droid we've all known for years will essentially die, even though
Wait,
that's not how memory wipes worked in the prequels for C-3PO.
wait.
Frick,
So the thing is, he maintained his personality, though.
wait. Oh no, it gets dumber. Frick completes the hack, and 3PO is now able to read the messages inscribed on the dagger. This action creates the red-eyed C-3PO seen in the D23 footage, which you can buy in local toy stores. The translated text points them to the location of the Emperor's own Wayfinder. Having served his purpose, 3PO's memory wipe begins, and he shuts down. Once the memory wipe is completed, and 3PO reboots with a completely empty memory. Zori and Poe reminisce about old times, something around or during the 3PO sequence. There's some lingering connection there, even though they have some sort of falling on the past. Poe tries to convince Zori to join them. She turns him down, but she understands that good is what Poe is trying to do and gives him a First Order Captain's Medallion as a gesture of goodwill to help them get through the First Order security. She had been saving to buy this medallion on the black market as her ticket off Kijimi and away from her spice running days. But she gives it to Poe. Kylo's Death Star arrives on the planet, and Rey senses Chewbacca is still alive. Kylo initiates another Force Skype with Rey. Kylo spends much of the time antagonizing Rey. Some of this conversation revolves around her parents and the truth behind the dagger. It was once used to murder her parents. Many years ago, Ochi was sent to murder Rey's parents, who were trying to hide Rey from the galaxy. Ochi succeeded, leaving her parents as nobodies to be forgotten by the galaxy. Whereas Ochi failed was with Rey. He could not find her, so he left her behind on Jakku, even though that's not what the flashback on The Force Awakens had happened. This is what Rey remembers, even though that's not what the flashback had happened. The ship leaving in the wake of her parents' murder, not her parents abandoning her. Rey lashes out at Kylo during this bond, and their lightsabers clash. Having gotten everything he needed from Rey during the session, he cuts off the bond. Kylo makes his way down to the planet. As our heroes make their escape, we see Palpatine orders Hux and White Pride are being carried out as children are being rounded up by soldiers of the First Order. As the heroes escape on Ochi's ship, the group makes the decision to use the passage device to board the Star Destroyer and recapture the Falcon and save Chewie. The device works as advertised, and the ship lands without question. On board the Star Destroyer, the droids log onto the ship's computer network to locate Chewie. Rey splits off, feeling as if something is calling to her. Meanwhile, the others find Chewie, but the rescue attempt fails and they are taken captive. Oh no. The calling Rey feels is caused by the dagger, which draws her to it because she's actually a Sith. In Kylo's living quarters, Rey finds and grabs Ochi's dagger, but when she does, it gives her visions of what happened to her parents.
Wait. She's actually a Sith.
Well, no, I
You're
mean
not born.
the way she's written in this story, she's a Sith.
But you're not. I'm okay. Sorry, keep going, man. I'm sorry.
Ochi found and
So
killed
sorry.
them with the dagger, and that her parents were trying to hide her from Ochi. When she breaks free of the vision, a bond with Kylo Ren begins. He discovers that she is on his Star Destroyer, and a lightsaber duel breaks out between the two of them across two different locations. Kylo on the surface of Kijimi and Rey aboard the Star Destroyer. In other words, they're having a lightsaber duel without actually being physically present with each other.
That sounds stupid.
Mm-hmm. Kylo reveals that there's more to the story behind Rey and her parents. Ochi was sent to find and recover Rey, not kill her. Her parents just got in the way. She is still wanted for the darkness that resides within her. It's clear that by this point in the story, Kylo is fully committed to what the Emperor's mission for him. The Vader helmet in Kylo's room is transferred from whoever it is near it to the person who he is on the planet through the Force bond. This happens due to the fight they are having when the lightsaber strikes the helmet. Once Rey and Kylo's Force Bond duel ends, it's a Force Bond duel now, Kylo makes his way back to the ship as Rey grabs the dagger and Chewbacca's bandolier and bolts. Rey bumps into the fresh-minded C-3PO along the way, hands him Chewbacca's effects and dagger, and tells him to make a run for it while she stalls Kylo. It is during their confrontation in person that Kylo reveals Rey's Palpatine lineage. Palpatine's her grandpappy. It's her pap.
What?
It's her pap Sheeves.
So wait, so how Palpatine even still alive?
I bet he's a Force ghost type thing. That'll be my bet.
No. It's much worse than that. When it appears that all is lost for our heroes that have been captured by the First Order, General Hux arrives and, surprisingly, not only allows them to escape, but points them in the direction of the Falcon. Hux has been the mole within the First Order that Finn and Poe have received information from. Rey and the other heroes make a break for the Falcon and escape. Rey escapes by barely jumping in the Falcon while it's on the edge of the hangar. After they leave, Pride kills Hux for treason against the First Order and for being a ginger. From this point forward, General White Pride is the sole commander of the First Order military. The Emperor contacts Pride and demands that he use one of his specially equipped Star Destroyers to destroy Kijimi as an act of loyalty, and Pride complies. Pride tells Kylo that even though they don't have the dagger, they know where the Resistance is going, because they scanned it while it was still in their possession. The information gleaned from C-3PO's translation of the dagger writing leads them to the location of the second Wayfinder device, which turns out to be aboard the wreckage of the second Death Star on the ocean moon of Kefbir, even though that's not near, Endor, but whatever.
Wait, is it possible that the debris got there?
No. Unless they just made a new moon up, which they probably did because they lack creativity. Along the way to the wreckage, the crew comes into contact with a person named Jannah. It is revealed that she was press ganged in the First Order service as a child, but eventually escaped and found her way to Kefbir, where she has been living for some time. At this time, it is revealed that she is the child that Lando lost to the First Order. Oh. What a twist! It's not Finn.
Okay.
All those years ago, Jannah provides Rey with transportation to get to the Death Star wreckage. Finn and Jannah apparently chase after Rey to and on the Death Star wreckage. That's them riding on the furry space horses. Rey makes her way to the Death Star wreckage and begins climbing her way through its twisted remains. The scene feels very reminiscent of the activities we see Rey doing when we were first introduced to her in The Force Awakens. Eventually, she reaches the Emperor's throne room and discovers a chamber connected to that room that contains the second Wayfinder. Rey approaches the object and picks it up, which induces visions of a possible future for herself. In this vision, we see a version of Rey that's been enveloped by the dark side and is seen in the D23 footage. That's the one with the flipping double-bladed lightsaber.
The nunchuck lightsabers, yes.
Yeah. The voice of Palpatine may be heard during this scene. The vision shocks Rey. She stumbles back into the throne room where Kylo Ren is waiting for her. Kylo takes possession of the Emperor's Wayfinder, destroys it, and indicates to Rey that the only way to get another Wayfinder is to go through him, who she's beaten consistently in every single fight she's had, and take Vader's. A lightsaber battle ensues, beginning in the throne room and eventually transitioning to the exterior wreckage among the crashing waves. Off in another part of the galaxy, while Kylo and Rey clash sabers, a bright light in the universe begins to fade. Leia's dying. Oh no, the person who died in real life is gonna die in the movie? Oh, I'm being reminded of my feelings about this person dying. As the battle rages on, both Kylo and Rey sense the death of their respective mother and mentor. Palpatine senses her death too, making him more confident that Rey now has nobody to turn to but him. Sometime around here, Palpatine orders Kijimi to be destroyed as the first ships of the Sith fleet reach deployment altitude. They both react, but Rey recovers from the shock sooner and leverages the moment to take Kylo's weapon from him, once again making Kylo a little bitch. He stabs him through the chest with it. In the aftermath of the concluded duel, Rey declares to Kylo that she will never be like him and fall to the dark side, even though she murdered a whole bunch of people with Force lightning, which is only something Sith do. She exercises her newfound healing ability to save Kylo from death, stealing his ship along with Vader's Wayfinder device aboard it, and takes off, leaving her enemy behind. After Rey leaves the Forest Moon, the remainder of the Resistance crew boards the Falcon along with their newfound ally, Janna, having spent the duration of Rey and Kylo's fight repairing the ship and returning to the hidden secret jungle planet. Broken and defeated, Kylo Ren remains in the wreckage of the second Death Star when he is visited by a vision of his father. Han speaks to his son, telling him that it's never too late to return to the light and make the right choice.
That's not how the Force works.
Well, it does now.
No, that's not people disappear. How can Han Solo maintain his identity in the Force?
He just can now because he's Han Solo. Duh.
This is so stupid.
His conversation has a profound effect on Kylo, and in a symbolic gesture, he discards his lightsaber and walks away from the darkness and the identity of Kylo Ren. That's the end of Act 2.
This is exhausting how stupid it is.
Act 3. Following her experience on the Death Star, Rey returns to the island of Ahch-To. Through the course of the film, she has given in to her aggression, nearly killed her friend by unleashing a stream of lightning on a ship, learned that she is the descendant of the Sith Lord who reduced the Jedi to the numbers that they have yet to recover from, and half a century later, saw a vision of herself as a servant of the darkness and stabbed her enemy through the chest in anger, because all she's ever done is fought in anger. Her most recent encounter with Kylo was the last straw, and Rey has now made the decision to follow the example set by Luke and become a hobo, and exile herself on the island where the Jedi began. Rey scuttles the ship that she stole from Kylo and throws the repaired lightsaber originally constructed by Anakin Skywalker in after it. The ghost of Luke Skywalker appears to Rey, holding the weapon she just discarded. Oh, that's a callback to that terrible movie we all hated. Luke's conversation with Rey is said to be encouraging, yet realistically grim in tone. Luke knows firsthand what it's like to face Palpatine, even though he never did in any of the movies, and that it's not an easy task. Rey must confront Palpatine in the same way that Luke once had to confront Vader, even though that's not how that worked. Luke encourages Rey by telling her of the faith Leia had in her. She saw the potential within her and hoped that Rey would be able to restore balance to the Force once more, as Anakin once did, even though that's not what Anakin did.
What did he do?
He murdered a whole bunch of younglings and it instituted a space dictatorship.
And did he really ever bring balance to the Force?
Not really, no.
So why that's such a big part of the prequel trilogy? Since he killed Palpatine?
Because George Lucas had a vague idea that he was never able to adapt. Rey supposedly asked to speak to Leia at one point, but Luke responds by telling her that the family didn't authorize the use of her deleted scene footages for that. That Leia has not completed her training, and he cannot yet feel her distinct consciousness within the Force.
Oh.
But he had a whole movie's downtime to do that with Han. So that explains your complaint there. We see a flashback, Leia's last day of Jedi training, told to us by Luke. Isn't that great that we're experiencing something about a character that we actually care about in the early third act of this movie?
Yeah.
It's stated in the scene that Leia gave up the Jedi path because she had a vision that her child would die. She sought to prevent that. By the end of their conversation, Rey is re-energized for the seemingly insurmountable task that lies ahead of her and agrees to leave the island. Having destroyed the ship she used to come to Octo, Luke raises his own X-Wing. Previously seen submerged in coves of the island, because, I mean, hey, a starship that's been underwater for, years and years, I'm sure that's fine.
Is this the callback to
The Last Jedi.
Empire Strikes Back?
But it's also a callback to The Last Jedi.
So this doesn't make like Force Ghosts can't do that, can they?
They can now, thanks to Rian Johnson.
None of this makes any sense.
To allow Rey to face Palpatine, in addition to the Starfighter, Luke gifts Rey with a lightsaber that once belonged to Leia. Aww. Rey boards the X-Wing, armed with the coordinates for Palpatine's location obtained from Vader's Wayfinder, and leaves the planet. After returning to the jungle planet of Ajin Kloss, several things happen. After seeing the sacrifice made by 3PO, R2 reveals that he had a backup of C-3PO's memories in his archives and is able to restore the droid to a mostly whole state. Actually, R2 probably had like his memories from the prequels too, so that would be kind of great. It's like, why were you such a dick, R2? Why did you let me get memory wiped when you saved the memories? Why did you do that? I thought you were my friend.
It's weird that R2 memories never get wiped, though.
Yeah. There's apparently much mourning from the whole team, especially Chewie, who cries. Lando re-enters the story, having changed his mind, and also realizing that they need a character that people actually care about to help anchor this scene. Coming to the jungle base and wanting to help, however he can. Seeing that everybody's lost at what to do, Lando tries to give Finn some hope. Finn reveals information that D-O that leads to Exegol, which is the planet where Palpatine is on. With D-O having been found on Ochi's ship, the Resistance discovers that Ochi visited Palpatine long ago, when he was first given the mission to capture Rey, and D-O can tell them how to get back there. So in other words, we didn't need to mind wipe 3PO.
That's... Who wrote this?
J.J. Abrams and hit somebody else. The Resistance mobilizes, readying themselves for the impending conflict. Rey follows the coordinates found in the Wayfinder to the same spot Kylo did earlier in the film. Rey lands outside the giant cube floating above the ground and makes her way through the same underground passages, where Rey and Kylo's experiences begin to differ. Come in what Rey discovers. Palpatine is not in the same chamber that Kylo discovered him in, but he's in a huge open-air arena surrounded by Sith loyalists. In dark cloaks in the grandstands, Palpatine is being supported by some kind of mechanical arm, possibly connecting Palpatine to life support machinery. The sky above the stadium is filled with Star Destroyers, soon to be embroiled in the conflict with the approaching Resistance. Rey begins to confront Palpatine. Palpatine truly wills Rey to strike him down in anger. Palpatine reportedly acknowledges that he extended a very similar offer to Luke years ago, but on that day, Luke had his father to save him. Rey has nobody. She tries to resist at first, but slowly begins to lose her resolve. During this conversation, Sidious reportedly confirms Rey's lineage and goads her on to take up a lightsaber and strike him down, very much like how he encouraged Luke to do the same thing 30 years prior, telling her that only in killing him will she gain the power she needs to save her friends. Palpatine also makes statements alluding to the belief that Vader could not betray Luke due to their familial bond. That same kind of bond would ultimately cause Rey to do what the Emperor wishes. As for the battle between the First Order and Empire and the Resistance rages in the sky above them. Rey goes into the Emperor's commands and decides to strike him down. Ben Solo was able to leave the wreckage of the Death Star and his former persona behind, and he travels to Exegol with the purpose of joining Rey to help her face down Sidious. Before leaving the Death Star wreckage, Ben abandons Kylo's lightsaber, so he walks into this war zone with no weapon. When he arrives on the planet, he encounters the Knights of Ren, who are guarding the entrance to the arena where Rey and Sidious are. As Rey is about to kill Palpatine, and she sees no way around this, she senses Ben at the last moment. So Reylo is confirmed, everybody. Reylo is confirmed. She realizes that she's not alone and initiates a forced Skype call with him to pass off one of her lightsabers to him. Rey apparently takes out the guards with Leia's lightsaber, while Ben uses Anakin's to dispatch the Knights of Ren. They reconvene to face Palpatine together. After this battle, Ben is all sweaty, bloody, bruised up, and his veins are popping out, because he is Ben Swolo after all. Seeing Ben arrive pleases Sidious. Palpatine then uses his power to bond them together and begins to siphon power from them and direct it into himself. Because remember, the Force doesn't belong to you. It's not a thing you have. It's nature. Or in this case, it's something that totally is part of you. As their power flows into him, the once silky and decrepit Palpatine stands tall and strong, once again restored himself to a much younger, healthier state. It was Sidious's plan for Rey to kill him, take over and carry on his legacy, but sucking the life out of them and rejuvenating himself was his contingency plan.
So, did they get older?
No, because that would make sense.
But I feel like that's so appropriate. Did they get older since he drained the life force out of them?
Again, that would make sense, so that didn't happen.
Like, honestly, when people do that in movies, when they're trying to like drain the life force and they get older, I kind of just don't like that because it's not really aesthetically pleasing, but it makes sense.
Yeah. While all the action is happening on the ground, much more explosive battles happen in the sky. Pew, 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 pew. The Resistance and First Order are locked in battle. The Resistance arrives and they are confronted with hundreds of Palpatine Sith Star Destroyers. Also, at some point, people are riding on space horses on top of one of the Star Destroyers. Because that's a thing that happens. The Resistance first target is a control tower, same one seen in the opening of the film, that sends out a signal to the Sith fleet on how to navigate out of the area. Once the First Order notices this, White Pride transfers the signal to his flagship instead. This enables the signal to be bounced around from ship to ship, making it impossible to stop. The Resistance decides to assault Pride's ship to knock it out its control tower. At one point during the battle, Finn and Janna land on Pride's ship to destroy it. They recognize this is essentially a suicide mission, but Finn and Janna in particular see the price that they may have to pay as worth it to prevent other children from being abducted like they once were. Having returned to full strength, Palpatine then shoots Force lightning into Ben Solo, forcing him into a bottomless abyss, never to be seen again. Why does this sound like a comedy lie? Sidious then shoots lightning into the sky at the Resistance ship. He reportedly continues to make statements about how Rey will join him. Rey reportedly lies on the ground and begins to concentrate calmly, but hard. She reaches out to the Force, asking for help, and she finally begins to commune with the Jedi of the past. Among the voices she hears during that time are Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ahsoka Tano, among the others, and finally Leia. In defiance of this, Rey grabs both Anakin and Leia's lightsaber, and Palpatine turns his wrath on her. It's lightsaber versus lightning at this point. Rey is overpowering the Emperor, because she's the strongerest.
What?
No, I that was me making a sarcastic line. Deflecting
No. These scenes you're describing are so underwhelming.
Yes, deflecting his lightning back towards him, killing him, and unleashing an explosion powerful enough to make the arena start to crumble around them. Darth Sidious, the last of the Sith Lords, is finally dead. Because, he was also dead before. He said
he's really dead. He's super dead.
He's double dead. The Resistance ships come back online following Palpatine's death, and they continue fighting, pew, 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 against the Star Destroyers. Lando shows up in the Falcon, like he did in that other movie.
Man, you make it seem like Revenge of the Sith is a masterpiece in comparison, right?
Yes. With reinforcements from across the galaxy. Because remember when nobody answered Leia's phone call before, but now they did. Zori appears to be among them. There is apparent mention of the First Order interference with the Resistance signals on Crate. So you see, they did not answer the phone call. It was the fact that they jammed the phone call. But they heard the call for help loud and clear. Finn fires the Star Destroyer's own cannons at the ship itself, destroying it before the signal can transmit to another Star Destroyer. Without the power to navigate, their fleet begins to crash into itself. At the same time, Finn and Jaina complete their mission, succeeding in destroying White Pride's flagship. So the two black characters destroy White Pride's flagship. I just want to say that for everybody. The two are prepared to go down with the ship, but they are rescued at the last second by the Falcon. Rey escapes the crumbling arena. There is the Rise of Skywalker musical motif called the Falcon's Last Ride, implying the Falcon might be destroyed. Having won the day, the survivors of the battle regroup at the jungle base and celebrate. What follows is apparently celebration across the galaxy once again, just like in Return of the Jedi.
Didn't we already do this? Yeah.
Poe attempts a more than friends insinuation with Zori and is rebuffed in a moment that is played for light laughs, because that's all Finn is in these movies, a fucking joke. At the end of the film, the heroes then travel to where everything began, the desolate, sand-swept planet of Tatooine. Between defeating Sidious and the moment Rey has disassembled Anakin and Leia's sky lightsabers and uses their components to construct one of her own with the Force. It has a gold, yellow blade. Rey buries the leftover pieces between the Tatooine sand at the site of the Lars homestead. As Rey turns to join Finn, Poe, Jaina, Chewie, R2, 3PO, B8, and D-O, a stranger calls out to her. The stranger apparently speaks out how nobody has been seen around this land for a very long time and asks Rey for her name. This is the second time in the film that this question has been posed to her, but unlike the response on Pana, Rey has decided who she is. She gives the name Rey Skywalker to the stranger, adopting the name of her masters and revealing the primary meaning of the title of the film. Rey joins her friends and steals the identity of much more beloved characters as they look off into the distance in the horizon of the desert planet and watch the twin suns setting on a universe filled with hope and very bad writing. Luke and Leia, now Force Ghosts, might be watching them. So that's the movie. That's the movie.
Like, in Return of the Jedi, you get a sense of satisfaction, conclusion, catharsis. It seemed like none of this. It seems like this be the epitome of lazy writing and cash grab.
Cash grab, absolutely.
Yeah. So the lesson here is: don't question it, consume the product, and wait to the next product and consume this product.
Yeah. So that's me helping entertain you on this stream and helping liven it up a little bit. I'm gonna go to bed, guys. So just remember, everything's gonna be terrible in December for the Rise of Skywalker. So it's gonna be great. Watch a horrible movie.
All right, man. This has been fun. I'm gonna go pass out.
Okay.
All right. Later.
You too. Great. Oh boy. Well, hope everybody enjoyed the stream. Have a good night.